Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
I'm a fan of classic movies.
You know what they say, human seed, human do.
The dear departed once said to me, I never met an ape I didn't like.
Look, it's a man.
In heaven's name, get rid of that creature!
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
He can talk.
He can talk, 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 he can talk!
I can sing!
Ooh, help me, Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas. Oh, Dr. Zayas.
If man was superior, why didn't he survive? You did it. You cut up his brain, you bloody baboon! What I know of man was written long ago, set down by the greatest ape of all, our lawgiver. You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
20th Century Fox wants you to go ape.
Hello and welcome to Overlapping Dialogue, a podcast of audio commentaries dedicated to discussing cinema that fascinates us in a way we hope fascinates you. We're your co-hosts, Kyle and Levi Huffman. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Levi.
And here we are for our 23rd entry of the podcast, but with our third entry into our Planet of the Apes series we're doing, where we're hitting every single movie in the multi-decade franchise. And with our third one, and these last three, I think, this series just finds ways to get stranger and stranger, especially in this first five, really. But this last three are really kind of a part of a little mini trilogy of sorts, I guess, too, because they're much more confined. And I think it's towards the end of this one where the seeds are very clearly starting to be planted for actual sequels. And the first two were very definitive about very clear-cut endings, but they still found ways to make sequels. But with this one, they found ways, of course, to
And
along.
Before we jump too far ahead, I think also, though, that each of the endings of these movies, even this one, leave it at a sense of where it could easily not be another sequel, though, too, because it could just simply be left at Caesar being alive, and you can just basically imagine everything that happened after that.
Sure.
But then we get two more movies of
I guess
that
what
happening.
I mean is that
but
it doesn't have these
but
definitive apocalyptic endings.
You're right. But I'm just saying, but it also, interestingly, doesn't directly necessitate a sequel either. So it's kind of at that middle ground, like what we talk about Mad Men on here quite a bit, but like what Matthew Weiner wanted to do with each season of Mad Men, where it was kind of like, okay, well, if it gets canceled, we can have a somewhat of an end. But anyway, we don't have time to talk about Mad Men on this podcast today, so
maybe another time. Escape from the Planet of the Apes from 1971. Before we dive into the movie, Levi, why don't you run through some of the kind of a brief synopsis and who all's involved in this?
So, Escape from Planet of the Apes is a 1971 American science fiction film directed by Don Taylor, written by Paul Dean.
We talked about Dean last week.
Yeah, he's kind of the guy. We can talk about the production in a little bit, but something I want to say about that. But Don Taylor, let's see the things he did. So he was actually an actor as well, it turns out. So some of the movies he acted in were The Naked City, the Jules Dassin film. I think we talked about that some last week, actually, too.
Yeah.
Battleground, that's an action movie. Father of the Bride, Father's Little Dividend.
Is that a sequel to Father of the Bride? Yeah.
It probably is, yes, Mr. Tracy Jones, yeah. And then Stalag 17, which we've always wanted to see quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then as far as his directorial efforts, Escape from Planet of the Apes, Tom Sawyer, I guess a musical adaptation of Tom Sawyer, and Damien, the Omen 2, so it's a sequel to The Omen. Let me see if there's any other ones here. I want to see about movies he directed, yeah. Everything's Ducky. That was his first movie, 1961. Ride the Wild Surf, 64. Jack of Diamonds, 67. The Five-Man Army, 69. He did a version of The Island of Dr. Moreau in 1977 I didn't know existed.
Okay.
That's interesting. I like to see that. But just before that, The Great Scout and Cat House Thursday,
Gotta
1976.
Lee Marvin.
Lee Marvin, Oliver Reed, Sylvia Miles, Kay Lenz. Oh, yeah. You know it. So he didn't actually direct as many movies. As far as other movies he acted in, let's see if there's any there. 1951, he was in 5 movies. Submarine Command. Well, he's in 2 versions of Submarine Command. Did I make 2 of those?
Or if that's just
somebody just screwed that up, I think. Okay. So he was in Father's Little Dividend and Flying Leathernecks, Blue Veil. Don't worry, we're not going to spend a lot of time on him. Although this probably won't be as long of an introduction today, so we can spend a little bit more time. Man, Sherwood Forest. Yeah, so not a big name.
I feel like somebody, no offense to him, who just was very much a part of the background of the complexion of Hollywood, and then just was always a background figure.
Probably one of his larger roles, depending on who he was in this, I would think, would have been in Stalag 17, because I know that's kind of about
William
a few
Holden.
men specifically. So that's probably one of his bigger roles. I don't really know. I don't remember him in The Naked City, and I haven't seen him in these other movies. But it does say co-starred, so I guess he was sort of a star. So he did get a trailer title card, a title card in the trailer of Father's Little Dividend. That shows here. So
there you go.
Anyway, so
I really missed an era which I wasn't even alive for, so how did I miss it? But where you could just get movies with titles like Father's Little Dividend.
I mean, it's a third finger, left hand situation.
My Darling Chickadee.
That's what we're dealing with. Yeah. I mean, The Bride Came COD. You know, it's all that type of thing. You know, Squeal, Pinko Squeal, which wasn't real, of course, but
it easily could have been.
Yes, of course. Go listen to our Inherent Vice podcast. We probably talked about that at some point. But anyway, so Arthur P. Jacobs producing once again, and Paul Dean writing. One thing I'll say here, I'll go ahead and talk about it before we move on. So, of course, they they had, they basically canceled the franchise. They were like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
Because of what happened. But it made $19 million beneath.
Yeah.
So, in earnings against $4.6 million budget.
Yeah.
Right? That's quite a bit of money.
No, that's a good return.
So, as a result of that, screenwriter Paul Dean was famously sent a terse telegram that simply said, and I quote, Apes exist, sequel required. God, this is going to do this again. Computer always making noise. But anyway, so, I don't know if that's Arthur P. Jacobs who sent him that. Probably, because I know that Daryl Zanuck, or no, rather Richard Zanuck, Richard was the son, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That Richard Zanuck was kind of out, or Dick Zanuck, as I'm sure he was known by his friends. was kind of out of the whole thing, didn't want anything to do with it anymore. He kind of moved on, I think. But it was probably Jacobs or somebody else that wrote him that.
Imagine being in a position, though, as a producer where you can walk away from something like this, and then Jaws is a few years around the corner where you're going to be associated with that. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Dick Zanuck's done a lot of pretty big things randomly. But anyway, so therefore they were like, all right, we got to make a sequel to this movie. So Paul Dean, actually, and it says this in that Den of Geek, which, by the way, Den of Geek has been pretty invaluable in their write-ups of these movies that I think so that we've read.
This one's called
Why Escape from Planet of the Apes was ahead of its time, which I'd say it mostly was. Most of these are written by Don Kay, I think, for Den of Geek, but they're really good. And they actually provided way more production information than even the Wikipedia does.
Yeah.
So I don't really know where he gets all that from, but anyway. So, they wanted to make another one. So, its plot centers on many social issues of the day, including scientific experimentation. I guess it's not really going to explain it, but scientific experimentation on animals, nuclear war, government intrusion. Basically, the movie is about, at the end of the first sequel, Beneath Planet of the Apes, the world exploded, as you remember, Yeah. So, meanwhile, you remember I said at the end of last podcast that, not the Roddy McDowall, but basically Roddy McDowall stand-in and Kim Hunter weren't really in the rest of the movie, the last half of the movie, and you're like, okay, and you kind of forget about them totally.
Yeah.
So whatever. But so during all that time, they literally were in the movie, and then they immediately dropped what they were doing and said, we need to repair the spaceship that crashed. And they repaired the spaceship that crashed along with another ape that we'll be talking about here in a minute. And decided they were going to leave Earth. I guess it's that let's see what it says here. Yeah, it says, during the events of the preceding film occurring off-screen, they escape Earth through its destruction when they accompanied their fellow chimpanzee, Dr. Milo, in salvaging and repairing the spaceship originally used by Taylor. So it's not even the one that crashed...
in the beneath the
right.
beginning.
Yeah, so I guess they went and found the one that was underwater.
I guess.
Anyway, whatever. I'm going to imagine they used the one that crashed at the beginning of Beneath. I don't know why. This is something that somebody on Wikipedia says. Maybe they'll explain this in the movie. I don't remember. Anyway, so while they're leaving, I don't know where they plan to go, the shockwave of Earth's destruction sends the ship through a time warp that brings the apes back to 1973 Earth.
Very convenient.
Of course, now this came out in 71, so it was 2 years.
It's too bad. Imagine if they could have been... I mean... It very conveniently put it in 73 because that's when they're early 70s is when they're making these movies. What if they send them back to the Civil War, Yeah,
now that would have been interesting.
Or the Revolutionary War,
or even Old Salem, and they literally would have thought it was witchcraft.
Like ancient Greece. I mean, you pick it.
Could have been something.
Yeah.
But anyway,
convenient.
So there's a lot of convenience, I think, in the beginning of this movie. But I think ultimately what it becomes about is them becoming these strange celebrities that are actually relatively accepted by humankind, something I find relatively unrealistic, but whatever.
Also, though, by the token of, I think, I agree that's mostly, obviously, unrealistic, but, I mean, there's so many, spiritual gurus / self-help people / new age stuff going on in the early 70s.
No, I think it reflects that.
By the way... There's just some talking apes walking around. We'll listen to what they have to say.
And I think that it, like you said, it's reflective of those types of people who are unqualified nut jobs. Frankly, I mean, nothing against new age self-help stuff. A lot of that stuff I think is actually valid, but some of that stuff just junk. But anyway.
But a lot of those people accumulate a celebrity and a cult of personality.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that reflects that. And like I said, I think that also is reflective of the racial themes I kind of talked about last week of the way that a lot of the black intelligentsia at this time was treated as for lack of a better term, they would say, oh, there's some of the good ones, or oh, there's some of they're the smart ones. And it's like, no, I'd say they're as smart as anybody else. Right. I mean, But like I said, I think that's one of the biggest themes of the movie is particularly the way it treats the apes the way Malcolm X was treated a lot of the time when he went on radio and TV and people were like, oh, this black Muslim nationalist is really a smart guy. It's like, yeah, who would have thunk it? I mean, but that was the thing of the time.
Very patronizing.
So, very patronizing ideas that have they really fallen by the wayside? Probably not near as much as they should have. But so I think that's one of the big things about the movie. But ultimately, what happens in the end is that people start realizing, oh, this is what actually happened with Earth in the future, and that the apes are going to take over, and they know that Zira is pregnant with a baby, and people in the government decide, well, why don't we just take the baby out now ahead of time so that we'll avert that. Kind of a big influence on the Terminator, I'm sure, whether or not James Cameron
it's kind of similarly, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy in terms of like, these people are fearful of these apes from the future, which we wouldn't be, frankly, but are talking about what happened to humanity, and so they're like, oh well, to prevent that, let's kill off these apes, but only further adding to what Caesar's grievances are going to be,
and not averting their own human problems, that they should be.
And so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, similar to the Terminator, like with Terminator 2, where they're taking the arm that was recovered from the first Terminator and using that technology to develop what like Cyberdyne and the Skynet is going to be.
It's that cycle of continuous repetition, because that's what's interesting about this is that what's so weird is that Cornelius and Zira are their own ancestors.
Right.
Like, it's really weird how that works out, obviously, but. Yeah, that
and it's also isn't it ironic too that the people who cut humanity the most slack and were the most progressive ended up creating a symbol that became the product and the subject of such idolatry and zealotry. You know what I mean? It's kind of ironic, that they were, because they were really defending Taylor and trying to stick up for humanity, and then they ended up creating, inadvertently, just by virtue of their existence, the whole social order that would oppose such a existence. You know what I mean? Very interesting.
And then the other thing we basically were just saying is that humanity didn't listen to their warning and change their own problems and issues that ultimately caused the downfall of humanity. It was both their decision to want to kill the apes off, but also their own problems of war and nuclear annihilation that would ultimately sort of also cause it. So yeah, I mean it really is. Well, I was just gonna say it really is a fascinating job on Paul Denn's part that he was able to come up with all that, because it seemed impossible. But
I don't want to take any credit away from Dean. In fact, I think I'm actually going to pat him on the back for what I'm about to say in a weird way. I think they've. It's hard to know, and he would probably say, "Oh no, it was there." Blah blah. I don't know. Can't ask him.
Yeah.
I think they really lucked out with how they even make a sequel to Beneath the Planet of the Apes,
right?
Because I just don't feel at all like they really thought that there was gonna really either be a sequel or that Zira and Cornelius would be the cornerstones of it.
Right.
I think they literally lucked out by being weirdly slack with the last movie and not including them into the narrative,
right? And
that they were just kind of off to the side, and they were literally, I don't know if he had I don't know if he was a drinker, but just had a crazy binge one weekend and was like, what am I going to do to come up with a sequel? And it was just like, wait a minute, like those characters weren't in it. What if we time travel?
Yeah.
And I think it's actually a very canny example. It's something I think that blockbusters and series and franchises would do better to do now, in terms of doing something unconventional, flipping the premise of a franchise or a series on its head while still getting to the heart of what its themes are. Because I think, it's easy to take the safe route, and it's easy to, sprinkle in, the mechanisms for making sequels to movies now. But I really feel like these movies, for some of their problems, really, each entry really go for broke. Yeah. And really smoke them till the wheels fall off, like one of my favorite phrases. And just really go as hard as they can, and for all their problems, put a lot on the line, movie to movie. And that, again, I don't just want to blame this era of movie. I think eras after this in general also suffer from this. But just really putting it out on the line and using everything at your disposal to make and create a new version of what a quote franchise means and is.
Right.
And again, the whole premise of, we're going to take the premise of the first movie and flip it, where the apes are now the inhuman weird ones.
Right.
It was very smart and canny, and we're going to see with this movie, there are some corny things and some things that fall flat, but on the whole, I think represents some of the best of this franchise in terms of almost back to the Serling idea that we talked about with the very first movie, of taking this very kind of populist genre and something that kind of appeals in some ways to the lowest common denominator, but in its own way, taking a very ham-fisted yet firm plunge into what can we do new with this, and we're not just going to play it safe. So in that way, I think this movie is a success.
Yeah,
and I think
I
even
agree.
more so Conquest. I think we'll talk about that next week. But
yeah, so the cast, we'll go through here. Of course, Roddy McDowall and Kim Hunter are back. I guess Roddy McDowall, I don't know what the situation was with this one, if he...
guess he's, I'm in this for the long haul. Like,
right.
I don't know.
But I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the situation was where he came back. If there was any, I lost my train of thought. But just like if he wanted to direct another movie or what was going on with Tale of, what was the name of that movie again? We gotta look that up. Tale of Zim or Tale of Lynn or something. What was it? Let me see. Yeah, no, Tam Lin. That's right.
Yeah.
But it was the Ballad of Tam Lin. So I knew it was Tale or Ballad or something. Anyway, so yeah, I guess he's back for this one. And then, of course,
he's going to be in all the rest, too.
Yeah, because
but this is his last time as Cornelius.
Right,
so.
and this is the last time that Kim Hunter's going to be in these two. So, and they, obviously really are the stars of this movie where they haven't been before in the other ones. So yeah, they're good. Not a whole lot to say.
We've talked about
them
a
lot, but we'll kind of talk about them again throughout this. Bradford Dillman as Dr. Lewis Dixon. I'll be honest, as much as I've seen this movie 2 or 3 times, I don't remember who a lot of these people are in the movie. But I'm assuming he's probably one of the doctors that is more hospitable to them. I don't remember. We'll see as the movie goes along. Let's see what other movies he was in. Well, let's go to the top here. It says if it says stuff. Nope, it doesn't. Okay, I'm going to have to go through this step by step. So,
Crack in the Mirror. That's a good name for something.
Yeah, from 1960. He was on Alfred Hitchcock Presents in 1963, A Rage to Live. Wow.
That's a good name.
Movie before Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Monstrosity. Science fiction horror film. Oh, the Atomic Brain. I have heard of that a little bit. Francis of Assisi. Okay, so he was Francis of Assisi in that. Movie called Jigsaw, not the new Jigsaw.
No.
But I think I've seen this somewhere recently, and I don't remember what. Anyway, let's see.
Wait, suppose they gave a award and nobody came.
Oh, yeah, that movie. I've heard of that, yeah, with Brian Keith, Tony Curtis, yeah, Ernest Borgnine. Let's see. Not a whole lot of stuff I'm recognizing here. Just a lot of random.
The Lincoln Conspiracy, John Wilkes Booth.
Oh, okay.
In 1977.
Yeah.
The Iceman Cometh. I actually remember him in that because his face was looking
was that
familiar
version?
to me.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got a role in
yes,
that.
he's been in a couple things. Anyway, moving on. We'll talk about him, I guess, in the movie when we see him. Natalie Trundy is Dr. Stephanie Branton. Seen her in something. She looks familiar. Not in a lot of things, though.
Said she's in Conquest.
Yeah, she's in Conquest and Battle. As a different... Well, it looks like she's different people. And well, okay. So, she was Albina in Beneath. Dr. Stephanie Branton in this. And then in Conquest and Battle, she's Lisa. So,
okay.
I don't know. Maybe she was a friend of the producer or something.
Yeah, that's
second husband, Arthur P. Jacobs.
Oh,
so that's what the situation is.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So they were friends, I guess.
Movie, I guess. I would hope so. Eric Braeden is Dr. Otto Hass. Oh, of course. Eric Braeden.
Victor Newman from The Young and the Restless.
Yeah, I had forgotten he was in this. That's
He's very famously also in Titanic.
Yeah. Let's see other things he's in. Yeah, he's most known as Victor Newman, Young and the Restless, Rat Patrol. Exploits of 4 Allied soldiers, 3 Americans, 1 British. That makes sense, I guess. Colossus, the Forbin Project. Yeah, that's what he's most known for. Always kind of fun to show up. I didn't know he was German. I guess that makes sense.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
But then he attended the University of Montana, Missoula. So.
Yeah. I guess he was, let's see. Yeah, he immigrated to the United States in 1959. He would have been
18.
Almost 20. So he would have spoken German a lot. So I didn't never know that.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like a very English
Yeah, he's got an
guy.
English sounding voice. So.
But anyway, yeah, he's kind of like the villain in the movie, sort of. But it's also, and even though he is the villain definitively, it is also that question of like, well, isn't that what anybody would fear this and maybe want to do that? I mean, I'm not saying it's right or it's clean, but I think it's,
in its own way, what's strange is we empathize more with that, and we don't necessarily gravitate towards some of those ideas when it was the apes in the first 2 movies
because we're humans,
we're humans, but it represents that point of view, but from a human perspective instead of an
very
ape.
much that. William Wyndham, I've heard his name a million times. He's been in a bunch of stuff. Let's see what they are.
A lot of TV, Twilight Zone, Star Trek, Columbo, Gunsmoke, Mission Impossible.
Yeah, Murder, She Wrote.
Magnum P.I.
Yeah, Newhart, L.A. Law. As far as movies, he was in To Kill a Mockingbird in 1962, The Detective in 1968, that Sinatra movie, yeah. Is that? Hang on, I want to check on this. I know originally that there was some connection. It must have not been this. Did you know that it's... Yes. So... Okay, that's what I thought.
Roderick Thorpe.
So this guy wrote a book called Nothing Lasts Forever that was basically the basis for Die Hard.
Oh,
and that originally, I think they were going to get Frank Sinatra
to
play that role.
Basically, yeah.
Yes, it was. So that's what I thought. I thought that movie was connected to that. Was the detective? So anyway.
I forget about that and then hear that again, and I'm like, yeah,
that's just so insane.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Frank Sinatra in that movie, like walking on glass and like, him saying "Yippee Ki-Yay, MFer"? What would that sound like?
Well, I have to imagine I can imagine almost the Frank Sinatra of like the Manchurian Candidate being that guy, but like in general, Frank Sinatra, that would have been
I'm pretty sure about that. That
that is true. I've heard that before.
Yeah, let me look this up. Hang on, we're going to take a detour here. Yeah, he was offered the part. What? Yeah, it says he was 70. Yeah, because he had starred in The Detective, so I guess it was like a pseudo, not sequel, but continuation. It would have been.
That would have been.
But that's a movie that isn't very remembered, so obviously, and I don't know that it would be as remembered. Obviously,
Frank Sinatra turned down the role, and it was subsequently offered to Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Clint Eastwood, Mel Gibson, James Caan, Richard Gere. Oh, James Caan is John McClane. I could kind of see that.
You know what? The funniest thing about all this is that Bruce Willis was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in line.
Mm-hmm.
That just shows you how bad Bruce Willis is.
Well, at that point, he was known for that show Moonlighting, I think, and he was a TV actor. I mean, I don't want to go on a whole Die Hard detour here, but all of those other people are well-established action stars by that point, and part of the appeal of John McClane is that he's kind of a, quote, nobody or somebody you're not as familiar with. Now, when we watch Die Hard, we know Bruce Willis is an action star, but at that time, he wasn't known as that. And so any of those other ones would have, other than James Caan, I think that would have been cool.
I think that James Caan would have been the coolest. Mel Gibson would have been the most apt. Because if you think about Mel Gibson in, like, Lethal Weapon, now this would have been before that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he could have fit that John McClane role pretty much. He's basically pretty similar to Bruce Willis anyway.
Richard Gere would have been interesting because Richard Gere isn't known for being an action star. He was more of a pretty big dramatic actor, so that would have been a detour for him. Anyways.
Now let's talk about, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Screw that. Moving on. So other movies that William Wyndham was in.
Yeah.
This movie. Some John Hughes films, Plane, Trains, and Automobiles, She's Having a Baby, and Uncle Buck. And then Clint Eastwood's True Crime.
So this guy's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
As it turns out.
Let's see if there's anything else down here. Hour of the Gun. Texas Jack Vermillion. Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday movie.
The Americanization of Emily before that.
Yeah, James Garner and Jason Robards Robert Ryan.
It says his film debut was To Kill a Mockingbird. Can you imagine being your very first movie is like one of the biggest, most acclaimed movies of all time?
He's a
like
prosecutor in that. I just want to take a second though. Look, this Hour of the Gun has James Garner, Jason Robards, Robert Ryan, and that's an OK Corral movie. We got to watch that.
Yeah. What's funny is about this. Looks almost like a lobby card or a poster for Hour of the Gun that we're seeing. It looks like the Red Blood, Red Skin, the fake movie that's Telly Savalas and Rick Dalton in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm going to try to just mention Once Upon a Time in Hollywood every podcast now, I guess, at this point.
And he was Haskell Weeks in Brewster McCloud.
I knew he looked familiar,
I feel bad we didn't remember that. But let's see.
Go listen to that.
Stuff. Yeah.
Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night.
Oh, he was in that Funland, that movie that a friend of mine watched, said it was awful. I still want to watch it.
But Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night.
Yeah, it's Puppettino.
What does that look like?
What the hell? Wow.
I thought that'd be way darker.
New World Pictures put it out though.
Okay.
Summersby,
the
Miracle on 34th Street,
the 90s Miracle on
version, Dopamine. Yeah, so he's been in a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, a lot.
He's been on here before. So, all right, Sal Mineo is Milo. This is one of the most shocking realizations I think I've ever had in a long time. Is that I remembered, I was like, that was Sal Mineo?
Yeah.
You know?
Sal Mineo, most iconically in Rebel Without a Cause, kind of was a huge kind of 50s icon of sorts.
Especially for kind of queer, early queer cinema. He was bisexual, I believe.
So it is a little strange that, someone who was like a contemporary or a little bit younger than like James Dean is like this at this point popping up as a side person in a Planet of the Apes movie,
And I didn't know this. Did you know he was stabbed to death in the mid-70s? I didn't know that. And I just found that, and that this was only a few years before then, about 5 years.
I don't know all the details of his life, but I think he had a very tough, unfortunate life.
Yeah. So I think I've only seen him in a few things, but he's really great in Rebel Without a Cause.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a shame to see him so barely in this in ape makeup. It's, but I mean, he needed the money, I guess. It's a shame. But anyway, big shout out to Sal Mineo.
Yeah.
Albert Salmi as E1. Okay, so everything about this is weird.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Let's see what he was in, because I want to know what the hell this is from. The Brothers Karamazov with Yul Brynner.
Yeah.
Wow. And Maria Schell, Claire Bloom leaded. Anyway. Let's see what other things he was in. Let's see. Look at that picture of him in Twilight Zone. So there's a picture. Okay. So Julie Newmar is out. It's like it's the Woman on the Wing or something. Version of that. It's like, and this is in 1963. Of late, I think of Cliffordville was the name of the episode.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. As far as things he
TV
was
shows,
on,
Virginia,
TV,
Naked City, Combat, Bonanza,
Have Gun Will Travel, Big
Legend
Valley,
of Jesse James, Custer, Kung Fu, A-Team, Night Gallery,
Presents,
Fugitive,
Hawaii 5-0,
Route 66, everything.
Yeah. So, mostly was a TV actor. Nope, he was in a lot of
let me just say this one thing about one thing that I've really learned even over the course of this podcast is a lot of these character actors we're seeing, especially at this mid-century time of American cinema or a little later, is how much TV played a role and how often a lot of these actors pop up in TV.
Yeah, and there's some movies here, a few, but not many. So he's mostly at TV. The biggest movie I'm seeing is Battle of the Bulge, in which he was uncredited. I know that movie gets a lot of hate randomly, Battle of the Bulge, which we have not seen. I really want to. But supposedly it's pretty inaccurate to the Battle of the Bulge, but I'm like, so it's a big war movie.
But look at everybody's in it.
Yeah, so anyway, Rawhide was the movie or show. Jason Evers.
E2.
I don't remember what these E1 and E2
Judgment
are.
Day.
We'll find that out, I guess.
Are they test subjects or something? I don't remember.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. So, movies he was in: Guadalcanal Diary, Greenwich Village, Three's a Family, Pretty Boy Floyd, Brain That Wouldn't Die. I've seen that. Really bad. House of Women, Dawn of Victory, PJ, Man Called Gannon, Green Berets.
With
That's,
John Wayne.
Yeah, pretty big movie. The Illustrated Man, which was mentioned, had Rod Steiger in it, which was mentioned in at some point on the radio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
This, of course, a piece of the action. Not the episode of Star Trek, but a movie with Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. So, yeah. Claws, Barracuda.
The Stuff.
Oh, The Stuff. That's one of my favorite posters.
Basket Case 2.
Oh, Basket Case 2. I haven't seen the first Basket Case yet. I need to do that.
I see basket cases every day.
Yeah, I do too.
Boom, boom, boom.
But not that kind. And then some TV. Phil Silver's show.
9 episodes. Played like 4 different characters over the course of being on there.
Anyway, moving on. All right, Cheyenne, Hong Kong. It's a show. Rod Taylor was on that show.
Wow.
Surfside 6, 77 Sunset Strip, Bronco, Tallahassee, 7000, Perry Mason, Bonanza.
Gunsmoke.
Tales
FBI.
of Wells Fargo. I guess that's
Yeah.
about the original Wells Fargo. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI, Big Valley, Virginian, Green Hornet, Combat, Invaders, Tarzan, Run for Your Life, Wild West. You get the idea. We're just going to...
Star Trek.
Mission Impossible, Y50... All of it, you know? Anyway. All right. John Randolph, of course, we've talked about John Randolph in the past. He's in this as the chairman. I don't really remember him in the movie, but we'll find out. Of course, John Randolph was in Seconds.
Mm-hmm. Serpico.
Death of Innocence, Serpico, Earthquake, All the President's Men as John Mitchell. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I forgot that, yeah.
King Kong, the 77 version.
Heaven Can Wait.
Frizzy's Honor. Heaven Can Wait. I don't remember him in that either.
Yeah, he was the guy who got his team bought out by Warren Beatty.
Yeah. Anyway, love John Randolph. Talked about him before. Harry Lauter is General Winthrop, another TV actor, it looks like. I don't even know if I'm going to go through all his stuff. The Gay Intruders, male secretary.
Okay.
Big broadcast of 1938.
Sailor uncredited.
Yeah. Wow. Magnificent Rogue. Hit Parade, 1947.
Handsome Boy uncredited.
Yeah. You know what, one of my favorite things, I haven't even watched any of them. You know, they used to have on TCM, they showed them MGM parades all the time. Yeah. Like, it was just basically, like, what were those exactly? They were like...
you talking about the...
You know, on TCM, they used to show those MGM parades all the time. It was like a TV series, sort of, where they had...
Well, did they show... were they just clips of old movies?
They probably were. I'm looking here. It says documentary TV series put on by American Tobacco and General Foods. Yeah, it was sort of like Walt Disney's Disneyland.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was basically just like, compilation promo. Yeah, but they used to shows on TCM all the time. But I like stuff like that, and then like those Hollywood canteens, and just like, let's just throw everything at the wall. We're Hollywood.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
that's a all time thing.
Yeah.
He was in stuff.
Yeah, Harry Lauder, look him up.
M. Emmett Walsh.
Now, M. Emmett Walsh.
Now we're going to go through him step by step.
Legendary character actor.
Yeah, so he, of course...
I think most famously... I don't know. Well,
let's just go through
he's usually always a guy that's always secondary, you know, very much a character actor part. I think most people who have seen it will remember him from Blood Simple. He actually has a bigger role in that. It's kind of the villain of sorts.
So
everybody's kind of the villain of that movie.
Yeah, but he's in actually a lot of big stuff. First movie he was ever in was Alice's Restaurant, the Arthur Penn adaptation of the Woody Guthrie.
And let's also say that he's
Arlo Guthrie.
He's one of these guys that have always looked relatively older. Yeah. And now he's is actually alive. Old. Yeah.
Midnight Cowboy, Bus Passenger.
Little
Big Man, Cold Turkey, which is a movie I've always really wanted to see because I saw some of it. Have you ever heard of this?
I have.
I saw some of it on TV.
We saw that in Barnes & Noble just the other day. I saw it actually as a DVD that was in there, yeah.
Oh, I might go.
I think you were looking at something I was going to show you.
How much was it? Was it like 10?
I don't remember. A little more than that, I think. I think it's like closer to 20.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to pay that much. Anyway. There Might Be Giants, this movie. What's Up, Doc?
Peter Bogdanovich.
Get to Know Your Rabbit. That's a Brian De Palma movie.
Yeah.
Serpico, The Gambler, we watched that recently. Nickelodeon, Bound for Glory, Mikey and Nikki, Slapshot, Airport 77, Straight Time.
Straight Time is really good. That's actually maybe among his best performances, I'd say. He kind of plays the antagonist of sorts to Dustin Hoffman, and that is really good.
The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh.
Never heard of that.
The Jerk, I think, is one of his most memorable roles as the sniper. Brubaker, I really want to see that.
Also, Raise the Titanic, Ordinary People. I remember him in that. Now, I want you to read his credit in Reds.
Okay, well, first of all, he's in a movie called Backroads.
Yeah.
As Arthur. In Reds, the 1981 film, Speaker at Liberal Club. Yeah, I'd say there were a lot of those, but Cannery Row, which I'm assuming is an adaptation of the Steinbeck novel, that and Sweet Thursday.
Blade
Escape
Runner.
Artist, Blade Runner.
I forgot he was in Blade Runner.
I don't remember that. Oh, he was the police chief.
Captain Brian,
or whatever. Yeah. Silkwood, Blood Simple, Pope of Greenwich Village, Fletch.
Harry and the Hendersons.
Back to School.
Clean and Sober.
Yeah. No Man's Land. Milagro. Hang on, whoa. The Milagro Beanfield War.
Directed by Redford.
Reuben Blades, Richard Bratt. All right.
What is that?
We're not even going to talk about it on air. We're just going to let it sit there, and I'm going to come back to it later. Maybe I will, actually, at the end of the podcast, and we'll kind of figure that out for our own. Sunset. I've always wanted to see that. That's that Bruce Willis.
Is that James Garner? Who was it?
No, that's... I think that's Kevin Kline. No, it is... No, you're right. It is
James
Garner. War Party... He's in a lot of stuff. Catch Me If You Can. Not the
Spielberg version
movie. Let's see if there's other stuff. Time to Kill.
He's in William Shakespeare's Romeo plus Juliet. I don't remember him in that.
I don't either. It's been a long time since I've seen that.
I do remember him in Wild Wild West.
Iron Giant. He did a voice. Poor White Trash. Yeah, no kidding. Snow Dogs.
Ooh, all-time movie, Christmas with the Cranks.
I've seen that. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
It's not all that good.
That's a classic Hudson Middle School. It's Christmas time.
Well, I'm going to be working there.
So. Yeah. So you got to continue that tradition. You have to honor the tradition.
Yeah. Knives Out, of course. I forgot he was in that too.
Honestly, when I saw him pop up in Knives Out, are you ever grateful you see a certain character actor? Oh, they're alive, and I wasn't even thinking about he was dead, but I was just like, oh, okay, he's working. Anyway, M. Emmett Walsh, legend, love you, babe.
Yeah. Roy Glenn.
We're moving on.
Is sorry, babe, as lawyer.
Lawyer.
I feel like I've seen him in something before.
Guess who's coming to dinner?
Says, well, he started
Father
on
of
Amos
Portier's
and Andy
character.
and Jack Benny show.
Okay. So he's Portier's father, and guess who's
That's
coming
what
to
I
dinner?
was thinking of. He was also in the Raising the Sun, Sound and the Fury. I haven't seen that, but Support Your Local Gunfighter. Oh, was that movie we saw some of on TV here a while back we wanted to watch? Yeah.
Who was in that?
It was James Garner, Jack Elam. I think this is that movie, isn't it?
Might have been, yeah. Yeah, I think it was, yeah. We saw it on TCM, I think, for a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway. Because we saw some of that. We got to put that Milagro Beanfield over here. Peter Forster as the Cardinal. I don't know. He's probably a Cardinal, I'm guessing. TV, well, this is kind of everything. As it turns out, not actually in as much. Desert Fox, Story of Rommel. Is that James Mason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know he played Rommel.
Sea Hunt. I always wanted to watch that show.
Yeah.
Cleopatra. Three Stooges go around the world in a daze as Vickers Cavendish. Father Goose, Batman, Mr. Percy. I don't remember him in that. 1776 as well.
Who's he playing that?
Oliver Walcott, Connecticut, uncredited.
He's got several uncredited credits.
Yeah.
Yet they're credited after the fact.
Bill Bonds, TV newscaster.
This guy just this looks like a bore. He looks like a newscaster. Bill Bonds.
The only movies he was in was It Takes a Thief. Well, this and It Takes a Thief.
It Takes a Thief was a...
Actually, it says he was a newscaster.
Right.
I guess in real life, yes. He was in Detroit. Then he was on Action News in the early 70s. Says he was also in RoboCop.
Okay.
So I guess he appeared in this because he was a broadcaster, also in RoboCop for the same reason.
Okay.
Get rid of that too. All right, only 2 more here.
Almost done.
James Bacon, General Faulkner.
He wrote
a biography of Jackie Gleason. So
okay.
Jackie Gleason, The Honeymooners. He lived to be 96.
He said he was uncredited as an ape in the original.
Oh man, if only we would have called him,
Yeah.
Black Tuesday. What?
Edward G.
Yeah. Okay. The Boss. Teacher's
Himself
Pet.
uncredited.
Al Capone. That's the Rod Steiger version.
Yeah.
Of Al Capone. The Big Circus. The Rebel. Uncredited in most of these.
Yeah.
80 Steps to Jonah, Hobo. At least he got credited in that one. Skullduggery. Commentator.
Also an uncredited ape in Beneath.
What is this? Skullduggery. Gordon Douglas. Burt Reynolds, Susan Clark.
I think I've barely heard of that because of Burt Reynolds, but
Ape-like creatures.
being used to slay by humans, and one of the trappers is allegedly murdered. Following murder trial centered on the question.
My God.
Okay.
It looks like it was trying to do a Planet of the Apes ripoff,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Says it was based on the French novel.
They even had a French novel.
Les Animaux de Natures, which also was titled in English, You Shall Know Them, Borderline, and The Murder of the Missing Link. So, anyway, we're learning a lot of stuff today.
Mm-hmm.
This guy was in a lot of stuff. Also, one of my favorite titles for a movie. Planet Earth, How to Seduce a Woman.
He's yet another actor who's actually in all of these.
Oh,
uncredited
really?
Ape uncredited Beneath. Yeah. He's General Faulkner in this, and then Ape uncredited in Conquest.
Let's see, was he like best friends with Arthur P. Jacobs or something? Could be. I'm looking here. Sorry, we went dark. Yeah, whatever.
There you go.
Anyway. And then Ricardo Montalban as Armando, who was, of course, is also in the next movie as well.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about Ricardo Montalban?
Well, I've not even seen. I don't even think I've seen his episode he was on of Star Trek, the original series. But then he, of course, played Khan on that, and he reprised his role as Khan very famously in The Wrath of Khan. Also, Fantasy Island, which is a show I've randomly thought about watching.
I'll admit.
Was he a villain in Naked Gun, I think, also?
Oh, was he?
I think he was.
I'll also admit to wanting to watch Fantasy Island. I'm not all that... yeah, he was in Naked Gun. Yeah, Vincent Ludwig. Yeah, he's also in some of the Spy Kids movies. Wow.
Wonton the
dog who saved Hollywood. Silent film star in that. I'm putting that out to the side also. Mark of Zorro. Franklin Langella was in that also. At least that
Sweet Charity, he's in that as a Bob Fosse movie.
Latino or Hispanic actors in that version. That's good. Which, I mean, the new one.
Made for TV.
Too, but, you know. That's a lot to ask for back then, sadly, though. You know. Yeah. Wonton the dog who saved Hollywood. I can't get over that. Yeah. But, yeah. I mean,
Heston, not back. What should you say?
I thought were we still talking about multiple?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I mean, he's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody knows him from Wrath of Khan.
Right, yeah.
He's been in that, obviously.
He's in a bunch of stuff way before that. He was from Mexico City, Mexico. So he was Mexican. Let's see, 7 decades. Yeah, I mean, he was in a lot of stuff, so...
He's another one of them people that everybody can probably find something to love him that he was in. He's in tons of stuff.
Yeah, so of course Charlton Heston was not in this, other than 2 brief flashback sequences.
Okay, so there you go. Or if we got a check, I don't know.
That picture of him there.
Probably bought a gun with it.
Yeah,
if he did get one.
Sure. Cold dead hands. Anyway. Yeah, so
Taylor's cold dead hands.
Right.
But
I mean,
you know, it's
oh my God.
What's weird is at this, I guess if you're going by this timeline that Taylor has, when did he leave Earth again? 72 or 3?
72, I think.
So this is 73.
Yeah, because
so he's been gone
at the
for
beginning
a
of
while.
the movie. I think that they think that it might be them when they get out, the humans.
Right.
They think that the spaceship is because it is their spaceship, even though it was at the bottom of that lake.
Yeah.
Whatever. But they did send that other group out too because they needed rescuing for some reason. Anyway, we're moving on. I know that took a long time to get through, but there was a lot of people that were on TV back then. So
yeah, in case you didn't know,
I'm sorry, I don't know every fascist on TV in the 50s. Okay, so yeah,
as far didn't you say Jerry Goldsmith was also
yes,
back
Jerry
to do the
Goldsmith came back to do the
score?
score. We were listening to just the beginning earlier. I'm interested in it already. It sounds way better than the last movie. So
yeah, the last one was kind of much more on autopilot, and not nearly as weird.
Of course, Arthur P. Jacobs back as a producer. We know that for sure.
Yeah.
Because all his buddies were in it. So it was a budget of 2.06 million, and it made 12.3. So it was a little less of a return on this one.
One thing we wanted to talk about when it came to, because frankly we were at a loss of what are some things we can maybe talk about with this movie in the intro. One thing that really stuck out to me, though, was just looking at the box office charts of 1971, and we thought we would talk a little bit about some of the other movies that were
whether they
theaters.
Be big money makers or not.
Yeah, I'll just go through the top 16, and what's strange is the top grossing movies of 71. This is always true with some of this stuff. There's some conflicting reports, and it's all about whether or not you count the North American box office or internationally. I believe this is mostly counting the North American box office when I'm about to read. The number one movie of 1971 domestically was Billy Jack, which is the sequel to The Born Losers, the first Billy Jack movie. And this was, I think, internationally the biggest movie of the year, too. Fiddler on the Roof was number 2. Diamonds Are Forever, that was, of course, Connery's return to Bond after he had left for On Her Majesty's Secret Service. The French Connection, which for my money is probably the best movie of this year, I think. Summer of 42, Carnal Knowledge, Dirty Harry, Clockwork Orange, Last Picture Show, that would be a close second, I think. Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, Sweet Sweetback, and I've got some things I want to say about that movie here in a little bit that are shocking to me. Willard, very shocking movie in general. Willard, The Hospital, Clute, The Andromeda Strain, and then finally Escape from the Planet of the Apes is actually, according to this, number 16 domestically. And not only that, some other big movies you can kind of point to. McCabe and Mrs. Miller is number 21 on the box office.
Yeah.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, number 24. Just in general for you, Levi, we didn't even name all the movies because there's
I'm going to run down
other
some
big
other ones. But
name some that pop out to you in 71.
Straw Dogs, the Peckinpah movie.
Yeah.
Which I'm a Peckinpah fan. Like I said, we've said this a couple times. Don't have time to go through him at the moment, but I like that. Minnie and Moskowitz, we just watched that recently. The John Cassavetes film, very good. A lot of these are more independent things. Going to mention Harold and Maude, which I think is probably the best movie of that year.
Actually, I'm looking now at some of these movies, and there's another big one that I actually think would be, and there's several ahead of that.
And Harold and Maude, of course, is a big movie now, but at the time didn't make a lot of money and wasn't all that well liked. Sometimes a Great Notion, that's probably the other best movie of the year. That's a movie that we've talked about here and there on here, that how much we love it. We'll talk more about that in detail one of these days. The last movie,
very strange.
Dennis Hopper,
it's his follow-up to Easy Rider.
Yeah. Of course, this is a foreign film, but Rainer Werner Fassbinder's Beware of a Holy Whore. Yes, that is a real movie, if you weren't aware. We watched that here a while back, and it was whatever, I guess. Two-Lane Blacktop.
Actually, I think that, for me, is the best and my favorite movie of this year. Now I'm thinking about it. I totally love that movie.
I didn't really like this movie all that much, but Pier Paolo Pasolini's The Decameron, which was the first of his trilogy of life movies, which also encompassed The Canterbury Tales and Arabian Nights.
Yeah.
Interesting movies, at least. But I thought Arabian Nights was actually okay, but the other two I wasn't that big fan of. But Drive, he said, that Jack Nicholson film.
Yeah.
Clute, yeah, we mentioned that earlier, I think, in that list. The Abominable Dr. Phibes, which I haven't seen in a long time, but good enough. Bananas, the Woody Allen film.
Now, I think for Allen, that was kind of a breakthrough movie that got him a little more attention at that point.
And the biggest one we haven't mentioned, which is THX 1138. So, yeah.
Yeah, I actually had forgotten about some of these movies off the top of my head. For me, like, my little pantheon of these movies would probably be Two-Lane Blacktop, Harold and Maude, Sometimes a Great Notion, Minnie and Moskowitz, and The French Connection.
McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
McCabe and Mrs. Miller also. Those are all really great movies. A lot of them fit into the new Hollywood framework of that moment. And so, what for you about maybe 1971, about maybe some of these movies collectively stick out for you?
Well, I think that it's already a good about, 3-4 years, 5 years, about 3 or 4 years, really into new Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And that we've already had great movies, before this, and we'll have even better ones after it, because the Godfather movies have yet to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And other movies even in the mid and late 70s that are really great. But I think it's just interesting that by this time you're seeing movies like The French Connection and McCabe and Mrs. Miller, and Dirty Harry even, making their way into big theaters and into the studios, and that people were making these movies. And then of course you have stuff like Two-Lane Blacktop, Last Picture Show, which are big, but they were made just a little bit more independent. Or was Last Picture Show put out by somebody? I feel like that was Columbia,
I believe.
So that was a little bit bigger. But some of these movies, were a little smaller still. But that these big movies are happening. But meanwhile, while all this is happening, you're having these silly ape movies that are still being made.
Well, I just want to point out that in the world of 1971, The French Connection, Carnal Knowledge, A Clockwork Orange, The Last Picture Show, Sweet Sweetback, and Clute were actually more commercially viable than the third Planet of the Apes film as a franchise.
Yeah.
Mind-boggling. We don't live in that world anymore. And it's downright inspiring, but also sad at the same time when you look at this, that why can't we have a box office list now that is nearly as daring as this? And one thing I really want to mention that shocked me is about Sweet Sweetback. That movie was actually number one when this came out. Sweet Sweetback's, of course, Melvin Van Peebles' follow-up to Watermelon Man. And it's kind of known as the first, quote, blaxploitation movie, but it's the first of a great many things. Blaxploitation barely describes it. One of the most shocking kind of independent movies, and it's been labeled a, quote, exploitation movie, and I think that takes away from the power of it a little bit.
Yeah.
Really, I'd recommend you seek it out. It's one of the most radical movies, I'd say, that's in the history of American cinema. But it was actually the highest grossing movie when this came out. And later, this is something you never see. Later on in the year, all the way in September, it then reached number one again, 19 weeks after it had been out, which, again, was downright shocking that a movie can stay in the consciousness and even break through again and be number one at the box office. Mind-blowing to me, like I said, because that just doesn't happen anymore. Because now it's all about, the next big release, it makes all its money, then the next big release, then the next. This one, actually, you see several times movies pop back up and still are making money. That's just you don't see that anymore. Right. But yeah, like you said, this was a weird time where the new Hollywood craze was actually far more in the public consciousness and box office commercial product than, weirdly, like I said, a further sequel to this, which that's, again, yet another world we don't live in anymore.
Right. Yeah. That, like I said, that's just so fascinating that was just the time period that they were in, that those movies were.
Especially Carnal Knowledge, which is a movie that we recently saw for the first time, and we're fans of basically everybody involved in that movie. And we weren't totally in love with it, but certainly respected it for what it was trying to be. And the fact that, again, there was a point where that was seen as commercially viable entertainment that people went to go see, adults went to go see. Again, that's something that the type of thing you would maybe see in a TV show now, less in a movie. But even then, it wouldn't nearly get the eyeballs that would have gotten back in the early 70s. But there we are. You know.
Sorry, I was yawning. Not because I don't love movies in the 70s. I'm just tired. Yeah. So as far as kind of the last thing we were going to talk about before we move on, we actually spent more time on this than I was expecting because we were going through all the TV credits of all these people that nobody remembers. But I'm sorry. I've got to talk about these before we move on. Or no, you know what? We'll do that after we talk about this because I want to hit on these.
Yeah. Well, we kind of already talked a little bit about this decision to time hop. I think that one weird thing that, you know, allows these movies to hold up to an extent all these years later is that while they're making money, that they weren't necessarily the most talked about, dissected thing in the way that franchise movies are now.
Yeah. Where
they're going to be picked apart by YouTube or picked apart by the internet. Those things, of course, didn't exist back in the early 70s. So it frankly allowed for more experimentation in some ways because they know that it isn't going to be slaved over. It's going to play for a few weeks and then it's going to go out and then you maybe make another one. The pressure on these franchises was far less extreme than it is now.
Yeah.
Where you have all these eyeballs, all these bloggers, all these people on the internet like, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. That, you know, if you were a fan of the first two Planet of the Apes movies in the early 70s, you were just kind of, we talked about this in the past, you were lucky with what you got, but then you moved on and the next thing was going to be coming out.
Yeah.
I think another movie that was, I think I saw at some point on the list here was the Omega Man, I believe.
Yeah.
That, you know, there was, you know, a lot more choice, you know, all the choices for things to see back then were, in some ways, were greater at the cinema, even though now, objectively, I think the choices are greater with TV.
Yeah.
But you would say, oh, well, Charlton Heston's not in the new Planet of the Apes movie, but he is in the Omega Man.
Right.
And so, again, weirdly, I think the fact that some of these genre movies were more disposable at the time actually works to their advantage, where they can be a little bit more experimental or try things out, as is the case with this movie, than they are now.
Because now and the decision, basically what you're saying is the decision to do that time travel stuff would be more accepted, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Because I think
and more influential,
now if you stray
because
too
now
far
you can
away
do that stuff all the
from
time.
what the, quote, fans are demanding, then like it could either sink the box office or lead to a lot of anger about it, and then it's just... And then you would have the studios, oh, well, we'll do what the fans want to do.
Right.
And, you know, this was made by professionals and adults who didn't necessarily, frankly, care all that much. Like, whatever was going to, you know, be it, whatever it was going to be what it was, you know?
And that's the I wouldn't say shocking reality because it's clear, but the sad reality. But also, like we're saying, kind of a good thing about these movies is that it all came out of the desire to make more money.
Yeah.
But that the inventions that came out of that were actually great and interesting and influential, even if they weren't always.
And the fact that, I mean, this came out a year after the last one. It wasn't very long after. It was, you know, as we said, that the first one came out in 1968. Then there was a 2-year gap between that and Beneath. But then from here on out, it's every year a new one comes out. Almost like the Bond franchise at a certain point in the 60s, what that was.
Yeah, and it's similar. Like that's what's fascinating to me, and what I don't know what that says, what we've lost in this amount of time. And believe me, there's a lot of really bad movies that were made in the 60s and 70s. I mean, there's been bad movies that have been made forever. But think about the fact that Paul Dean was given like this little amount of time to make this movie, and he did this, and it's as good as it is. And yet, these idiots in these boardrooms that sit around for 4 to 5 years and longer come up with the garbage that they come up with, and they have all these people working on it, and nobody, and they can't come to some realization of class, dignity, and taste. What does that say about anything? I don't know.
Well, we're saying all this on the weekend of Space Jam: A New Legacy has just been released and has been lambasted by the critics, I'm sure justifiably so. And, you know, a lot of people have been saying, oh, that's just like Warner Brothers, like, marketing itself throughout the whole movie, throwing out all these, Casablanca, Clockwork Orange, like, you know, The Devils, like, just all these movies that are just, like, somehow fall under the Warner Brothers catalog.
We're talking about the Ken Russell movie.
Apparently,
is that in that?
Apparently it is.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, apparently.
I thought you were joking.
No,
I'm literally going to have a heart attack. I cannot believe this.
But, you know, and again, for all the problems of old Hollywood, and there were many in their own way, one thing was that these people were professional filmmakers or producers. They weren't worried about selling a streaming service. They weren't worried about selling, well, they were, you know, ancillary products here and there, selling toys or whatever. But first and foremost, it was all about making sure that the movies worked as movies, and that and again, you know, now the studios are controlled as, you know, part of these conglomerates, these entertainment conglomerates that they have to fit in within the realm of a streaming service, and less just as actual films. And it's, you know, less about actually playing in a movie theater, more about it's going to end up on a streaming service, and so throw in all your Easter eggs and things, because then that's going to
rewind and watch.
Right. So that's, you know,
they can pause it.
Yeah.
And put it in their Pop Funko collections. I want to take a moment and actually read this. This is from a Variety article written by who is it written by? I've had this problem with Variety where it's tough to figure out who actually wrote the daggum thing. Are you seeing a name here anywhere?
No, maybe it's
they
towards
just
the bottom.
Don't give a crap, I guess. Okay. Well, sorry, whoever wrote it, can't find your name. This paragraph. Aside from familiar characters, this is about, of course, Space Jam: A New Legacy, by the way. Aside from familiar characters, film buffs will catch a glimpse of the white-suited droogs from the R-rated A Clockwork Orange, and even a nun from Ken Russell's The Devils, both of which will likely be lost on the kids in the audience.
Then it also says Metropolis.
References from Fritz Lang's Metropolis to Mad Max Fury Road are all shoehorned into the mix. Both of which will likely be lost on the kids in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say so.
How much of the political messages, I wonder, were lost on the kids in the audience for this movie, though? You know,
they were certainly lost on the adults, I'm sure. So
yeah,
man, I'm telling you, we're living in Sodom and Gomorrah these days.
It's just kids' entertainment, though. What's the big deal? You know, you hear people say this all the time. Well, it's just for kids. But, you know, why do we have to expect that things made for kids have to be abject garbage? Like, why can't we actually aspire to a higher level and, like, get, you know, actually treat kids with respect and actually assume that they might be a little smart? Because if you only ever go for the common denominator, that's the kids you will produce. You know what I mean? But
Andy Greenwald, we're calling you out.
Yeah,
if you're listening, which you're not.
But you know, actually raising the bar, and that was true for, I think, for a lot of the early Pixar movies, especially, that they actually challenge kids. And again, it's not like it's, you know,
we're not putting the devils.
It ain't
in
Fassbender, and it ain't like, you know, some extreme cinema, but it is something that is a little bit more challenging for kids while also let them have fun at the same time. You know, there is a middle ground of achieving both.
Yeah, and you know,
and I think that's what a lot of these movies makes them special. They do that. They are movies, I think, ostensibly made for adults, but they have these genre elements and the merchandising element that bring kids into it. And there was a lot of kids, I would imagine, of the 60s and 70s into the 80s generation especially, who saw these movies and were reached some political consciousness as a result of these movies, I would imagine, too. You know.
Yeah, we'll basically leave it there other than the fact that people, you know, back then and still are like, oh my God, the late 60s, just, you know, certain people of the political persuasion just like, what a hell. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, well, at least they were making movies like these back then. What does it say about now? Mm-hmm. You know? So
we live in a hell now, and it ain't getting any better, entertainment-wise. So
yeah. Anything left to say about this movie before we move on?
No, I think we pretty much covered that for now.
That's good.
You
should see it. We're about to right now.
Yeah, so we're going to take a brief break.
Oh, actually, no. You know what? Before that,
yeah,
let's go through this.
Okay.
Juan Ton, the dog who saved Hollywood. Okay. So it's a Michael Winner film. We got Bruce Dern, Madeline Kahn, Terry Garr, Art Carney.
I'm in. You know.
Yeah, I mean that
check.
Spoofing the craze surrounding Ren 1010. The film is notable for the large number of cameo appearances by actors and actresses from Hollywood's golden age. We're going to go through these. here in just a second. Many of whom have been employees of Paramount Pictures, the film's distributor. Okay, let's see. Movie also had Phil Silvers, Ron Liebman, Ronnie Graham, Tony Basil. All right, we're going to run through these really fast. Dorothy Lamour, Joan Blondell, Virginia Mayo, Henny Youngman, Rory Calhoun, Aldo Ray, Ethel Merman, Nancy Walker, Rhonda Fleming, Dean Stockwell, Dick Kames, Tab Hunter, Robert Alda, Victor Mature, Edgar Bergen, Henry Wilcoxon, Alice Faye, Yvonne DiCarlo, brief cameo appearances. Oh, Lord.
I don't know if we need to go through all those.
I'm just going to run through, see some names I recognize. William Demarest, Ricardo Montalban. That's where this is where it all comes back to where it started, you know. Gloria DeHaven, Ann Miller, Doodles Weaver,
Zsa Zsa
Gabor, yeah, Jack Carter, Barbara Nichols, Phil Leeds. Anyway, I want to see this movie immediately.
Yeah.
It's only 92 minutes.
No.
So
they fit all them people in there.
The dog who saved Hollywood. The Milagro Beanfield War.
Okay.
So, Robert Redford directed film. Had Reuben Blades, Richard Bradford, Sonia Braga, Julie Carmen, James Gammon, Melanie Griffith, John Hurd, hero. Carlos Riquelme, Daniel Stern. Wow. So before they were in Home Alone.
Yeah.
Only 2 years before. Christopher Walken. That movie is about one man's struggle as he defends a small bean field in his community against much larger business and state political interests. Kino Lorber put out a Blu-ray in 2020.
It sounds like a Redford, one guy against the world kind of movie.
The Milagro Beanfield War.
There we go.
That's all we had to say.
Yeah.
Moving on.
So, we're going to take a brief break, and when we get back after hearing the trailer, we're going to go escape from the planet of the apes.
This is Dr. Zira, her loving husband Cornelius, and little Milo. The most dangerous to man is little Milo. Why? The time is 1973. The place is right here on Earth. How did they get here? What is their reception?
Welcome, gentlemen, to the United
Escape from the planet of the apes. Their adventures are completely fresh, completely new, astonishingly different from what you experienced in Planet of the Apes and Beneath the Planet of the Apes. At first, feared and imprisoned.
We'll take the female first. Well, she seems to be pretty smart. All right, we'll go for the banana.
Well, why doesn't she take it? Because I loathe bananas. I don't believe it.
Zira, are you mad? Till we know who our friends are and who our enemies...
And how in the name of God are we to know that unless we communicate? We can speak, so I spoke.
The President convenes a special board of inquiry.
Have you a name?
Zira.
Does the other one talk? Only when she lets me.
Embraced by our civilization, the nation gives them a hero's welcome.
Address, please. The zoo.
What is it?
Well, it's sort of like grape juice plus. How is that?
Very wet.
It's certainly the most incredible story this reporter has ever covered.
And you share the impact of every incredible moment.
Must have been the shock.
Shock my foot. I'm pregnant.
The President's chief advisor wants them murdered, or else the human race cannot survive. The escape. The birth of an infant who could threaten man's very existence.
You're the second human I've kissed.
You are the first.
The relentless chase. The stunning climax.
Zira, I want that baby. If you won't give it to me, I'll shoot.
Why was Washington thrown into a turmoil by this one baby?
Stop him!
Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
And here we are. We're back. Love that trailer, by the way.
Yeah. It's funny, you could tell whoever put it on YouTube, y'all couldn't see it, but we don't have any. We're not going to create a Patreon where you can. So
no, it's easily findable though.
But anyway, you could tell it was like put on a VHS tape or something. It was really wavy looking in parts of it. But, I mean, one moment from that trailer, we were just laughing at. It's like the relentless chase. And it's just like a truck barely driving.
It's just like a truck barely driving. It's just like not nearly as exciting.
I know what it's referring
now.
to is that the chase as a bigger sense of them chasing them, but it's just like they're chasing. It's just like a truck just driving. But anyway, movie was rated G. Continually insane to me, especially the ending, as violent as the ending is. Which I guess we never talked about the ending exactly, but we'll just talk about it in the moment when it happens.
Right.
So
we'll get there. We'll talk about it.
All right.
So we're watching this yet again from the standard issue 20th Century Fox Blu-ray. Hitting play in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This one also starts without a logo.
So it's like you already know, 20th Century Fox. May it rest in peace in the 20th century.
So we got flagged on YouTube again, right? For Beneath. Has that been restored?
Not as this moment, no.
So
as we're
Disney's
recording
screwing us again.
Yeah.
And yes, you are. If you're hearing
what happens
this,
when Disney takes control.
You know what you did.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, on to bigger and brighter things.
So how they got that out of the?
I would imagine what audiences are going into this are like. Well, all right. So, we might have seen the posters or trailers or whatever. So, all right. So, wait a minute. So, is it the 70s now? I guess because helicopters. Then we see, of course, the spaceship that Taylor was on in the. Well, we'll see.
You dirty.
Whose spaceship this is? This is still up for grabs.
It probably is, dadgummit. It probably is his, because that would be the dumbest thing, so...
Yeah. And this would have been playing on, of course, in the early 70s. Audiences would have been used to, in real life, astronauts coming back...
in the ocean.
And coming back and landing in the ocean. It's very common, obviously.
Just a drop in the ocean, as Sean Connery would have said.
Yeah. I've still yet to see... We were talking about movies of 71. I've still yet to see Diamonds Are Forever.
It's not good. It's not all that bad either, though. I've seen all the Bond movies now, except for the one that will never come out.
No Time to Die.
Some are good. Some are
what do you
bad.
think about the 70s era for Bond specifically?
I think it's actually not as bad as you would have assumed. I think that Roger Moore actually isn't that bad of a Bond. His movies are just usually not that good.
Yeah.
But I think that The Spy Who Loved Me is actually really pretty good. The only reason I would give that movie a little bit of a bump down and give it 3 stars is just it is very much a You Only Live Twice clone.
Mm-hmm.
As far as literally what's happening, and the climax is like exactly the same. It's just in a little bit of a different locale. But yeah,
I guess if you like that though, you would like that.
No, I mean, and other than that, it's actually a pretty good movie. I mean, and I quite like it.
Was he was Bond through the early 80s?
Yeah.
And Timothy Dalton had his too, I guess.
Yeah, and his are good in the 80s. But yeah, I mean, in the 70s, I guess they're whatever. I mean, they're mostly bad, I guess. But most Bond movies aren't that good. So
pulling in the spaceship.
By the way, if you're like, oh my god, I can't believe you said Bond movies. Like, well, it's true. So I could care less. Believe me, I sat through them all. I'm aware they're not, and it's not that much of a chore to sit through them. But when you do them in a marathon, like any individual movie, for the most part, wouldn't be that much of a chore to sit through. But when you do all of them in succession, it just gets old. Like that's why I'm going to remember the ones I like and just go back and watch those someday. I mean, I'll probably watch all of them again at some point, but, there's already certain ones I've rewatched, pretty regularly, like the Connery ones and,
Yeah, presumably they would assume this is an American spacecraft because they would have presumably launched one just a year or so before.
Right.
That would have had Taylor and his crew.
Yes, that's what they're saying. Well, and the Brent crew.
Yeah. what a reveal this is for them.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how shocked you would be?
Yeah.
Like, you know.
They would think, wait, did they go up and turn into monkeys? Like,
yeah.
And then maybe you would think, wait, is it Soviet?
Yeah.
And then you would think, no. So this is probably the same daggum beach they shot the first movie.
Just like a little bit further down. They just like got a lot of mileage out of this coastline here. Yeah. Cornelius on the end.
Ronnie McDowell's just kind of looking around like,
A little bit of that funk, you know.
Yeah, I already kind of like this score. Just because it's like kind of a combination of the original movie and like more modern like funk and like typical movie music.
Poor
like,
Sal Mineo didn't get.
Yeah, I know.
Wasn't third billed,
they screwed him over all the way around on this one, right? But Natalie Trundy
is like
wife of Arthur P. Jacobs, like, you know.
So we got some apes that stumbled out of this, by the way. Bring the zoo down here again. That's where they're going to go, right? For a while is the zoo.
Yeah,
they put them
for
in.
A little while, yeah. M. Emmett Walsh, we mentioned, of course, in this just a moment ago.
Yeah. One of the weirder things about this movie sometimes is, you know, when they have Caesar, it's a literal chimpanzee. Like, it's a real, chimpanzee. Right. And it's like, seeing them in these suits with a real chimpanzee is kind of takes you out of it ever so briefly in terms of like, oh, by the way, these are people in suits.
It's weird because you can't do a makeup job like that on a baby.
Right. No, that's impossible.
I mean, so it's unethical, I'd say, other than it being impossible
well,
to do.
I'm saying part of the impossibility is wrapped up in the ethics of it.
Right.
You aren't going to be able to do that.
And it's just physically impossible. They wouldn't be still enough long enough to do it. But like I said, above all, it's just not good. But yeah, so it's just kind of a weird, like... I mean, at least they didn't just straight up do the, like, American Sniper baby, you know?
Oh,
like,
gosh, yeah.
Or even the Mad Men Season 3 Eugene Comes Home baby.
Now, Chris Kyle going up against, the American Sniper of the Planet of the Apes.
Right.
That's, fanfic might be out there.
Frank Capra Jr., who, if you may remember, Lou Bettino, who taught at UNCW, was a personal friend of.
Well, Chip Hackler was too.
Oh, he was too?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So, there you go. Also, you met Jack Hill that one time.
Yeah, Jack Hill,
who came to talk. He was friends with Case, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking about all these teachers nobody knows, but anyway, at UNCW. But
Jack Hill is a very sweet man who was there. He made some movies of the early 70s, most famously Coffee and Foxy Brown.
Right.
And I remember he talked about growing up, loved the old Warner Brothers gangster movies like White Heat. And I was I love White Heat. And he looked at me, isn't it great? Whatever.
Yeah.
So
he was probably happy that somebody knew what he was talking about.
I'm sure at this point, Nixon administration would have been in power. They're already dialing up the White House, letting them know, we got some apes, and he's already wondering if it can be in the, the plumbers or, how they can use them.
Can you bug them? See what's happening? They got bugs in there? I'm sure they got, I'm sure.
Well, they probably pick them off themselves.
Yeah, and there's no, you idiot. Talking about a bug, like.
And I think we hinted at this last week or at some point that presumably another reason to do this story the way it is to save some money too, because it's all would be contemporary. So really the only ape makeup you got to do is
he's like,
you have more it's for the main characters.
Yeah. This would be really weird, though.
Yeah.
Like watching apes being able to do all this. So. Although it's known how smart apes are, I guess this makes a way more sense that it will be apes that can do these things than, like, a horse.
Well, yeah.
Which is literally the apes have thumbs, so they're able to do things that
They
other
can
animals
walk,
cannot.
yeah, on two legs. Yeah,
they can communicate in very basic ways. Ain't a he. I think that'd be clear, but
well, human see, human do.
Animals screeching, calling. Yeah. Ooh, music. I'm gonna get this score on vinyl, even though I won't ever listen to it because I don't listen to film scores. But anyway,
but I mean, this is some good music,
Yeah.
And what I like is that Goldsmith's music in the original film was very otherworldly and eerie, and this feels very early 70s in a different, very different
but it
way.
has the same sort of that gorilla. It's like a man.
But
in a
it is
suit.
weird that this is literally like the scenes from the first movie flipped, where now it's apes behind the cages and humans are on the other side.
Mate.
It is interesting that they're not immediately trying to talk back in English and communicate their, hey, we're apes, we can talk, we can sing,
Yeah.
Going back to some of that class consciousness of the second movie.
Okay.
You can tell somebody in a big gorilla suit, obviously. That's another thing our contemporary cinema misses is guys in gorilla suits, wreaking havoc for no reason in random plots, We could bring that back. Los Angeles Zoo. Oh, but by the way, they're wearing clothing, but that wasn't them.
They took him to the infirmary.
Yeah.
Because they're like, there's something wrong with him. Like,
that ain't right. Ain't from around here. It'd be funny. They're like, Taylor's twin brother. It's like Charlton Heston just like happened to be brought back into it.
He was like, hell no. Like, oh my God. Pretty looking fox.
It is.
Reminds me of our cat. One of our cats. Okay.
The Wisconsin multiphasic.
Sound like a bunch of BS to me, but.
You see some versions of this, I think, in the Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I was going to say that
some
Rise is essentially a combination of this and Conquest.
Yeah. I guess 2 and 3 are basically war stretched out over 2 movies, yeah.
Or battle, you mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because war is the last of those, right?
Yeah. So was this guy the James Franco of his generation?
This would be really shocking to see all this.
Yeah.
And just be like, what? Like, go for the banana.
It's strange that, like, I don't know where this whole almost stereotype started. I'm sure apes actually do love bananas, but it's, bananas and apes. It's just like that.
Wow.
They think we're this stupid. If they waited that long before they said anything.
What? Meanwhile,
sent that gorilla over the edge. Said, "Boy, you uppity. You need to shut up."
Yeah, he was basically used in the movie primarily to explain like what happened, and then it's like, we don't need you anymore. Like, R.I.P.
Had a good run.
He also serves as like autopsy fodder for them, like.
Like, it is also just like, oh, well, we don't have any relationship with him from the previous movie, so just bump him off, and
Well, they presumably would have, but not in the eyes of the audience.
That's what I mean in the audience. So. He looks kind of sad.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I just want to kill, that's all. How utterly confused this guy is. Like, what? Like, return to monk.
Primitive apes can talk. Primitive? Well, I mean that in our primitive civilization, apes just don't talk. I mean, I think it's important that when our primitive security precautions are
Primitive.
you say anything in public, you should talk to what we primitively call the right people.
May I say something personal?
Please.
I like you.
Do they have a guy representing the President of the United States in this movie?
Yeah, he's
or is
in it. Yeah. That's William Wyndham, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Should have been Jack Warden from Being There, his character, just like Jack Warden should have been in these movies.
I mean, here he is, somewhere.
I'm aware that what I have to tell you may conceivably create a credibility gap somewhat wider than the Grand Canyon.
Everybody's talking about missile gap.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Like,
credibility gap was
yeah.
a huge phrase of the 60s, even in the early 70s, talking about the Pentagon's telling us the war in Vietnam is one thing and the
Right.
reality is something else.
Yeah, that is the one. The one.
Yeah.
They identified the bodies, Mr. President. They have identified 3 bodies, yes. All living.
This is a random time to talk about, what do you think in general of, like, in movies where they have just a bland, anonymous president of the time? I think the whole goal is to distract and say, well, this is fiction, this isn't reality. But so often the presidents are so boring, it is in its own way distracting.
Right.
It's like that's not a person of charisma or somebody recognizable even, It's actually a weird thing that can be distracting, I think.
Yeah.
But I think something like 7 Days in May with Frederick March, he's just so great at that performance.
Well, and he has
that president's more specific.
Well, and he has
more
a
clearly
specifically
drawn.
ideological charisma more than even
But I can't express how much I love the ham-fistedness of Nixon being in Days of Future Past as a character, facing off against mutants in the Oval Office. Something about that I really just love. And that movie also suggests that maybe Magneto had something to do with the death of JFK as well.
He was also a mutant. Like, what? That's so dumb. Like, I love that movie, but that's stupid. Like,
well, specifically the way that's phrased in that movie, it's very ambiguous. Like, he says something like he was one of us or a friend of ours or something like, well, maybe he was going to help the mutants out, whatever. However you draw it out is dumb, but, whatever. Like, can you imagine, like, Nixon in this movie being confronted with the apes? And, like, I mean, Nixon came to visit the Oval Office. Would have been that much crazier to have, talking apes.
John Randolph.
Yeah, your boy. There's Victor from Young and the Restless.
Yeah, his senior science advisor.
But I always think, too, about Superman 2 has a very bland, whatever, president character in it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that's something needs to be done about that in movies. I think that's kind of distracting in its own way.
True.
Even like Air Force One, which is an action movie, it's like, it's Harrison Ford. It's somebody, that's somebody, and he's the lead, obviously, too.
Right.
But you remembered all the president character in The Dark Knight Rises?
No.
It was literally like in a scene, basically, like addressing the nation or whatever.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Louis Dixon, and
But again, this is very much, it feels like a repeat of from the first movie in terms of the trial or the examination of Taylor. But
what's interesting is that in this version of it, it's way more, and I think it fits it sort of, is that we think of apes as an aggressive, primitive ideology of just being, like the apes just are animals. But then in this, that the humans are more willing to be like, okay, well, let's see what's going on. But then in the end, their true selves kind of come out in the end. So it's more calculating and clever and cunning than that.
Yes, sir, but I repeat that they have the power of speech, and it is for you gentlemen to assess how far that power can be exercised intelligently. May we be told which is the female of the species? Does she rise as a reflex to you having indicated her, or in answer to my question? That's for you to decide. Have you a name?
Zero.
I love how annoyed they are the whole time because Taylor in the first movie, he's in the process of regaining his voice, and there's like a kind of a anger that he has, and they're just more annoyed than anything. They're like, "Can we just cut to where you guys just accept this already and move on?" Like,
Only when she lets me.
Like my balls are clapping,
knee slapper.
So I will be the villain.
They got a member of the clergy there too.
Yeah.
I wish he was credited as Your Eminence,
Speak any language other than English? What is English? I speak the language taught to me by my father and mother, who were taught by their fathers and mothers before them. It has been the language of our ancestors for nearly 2,000 years. As to its origins, we'll be sure. The gorillas and orangutans of our community believe that God created the ape in his own image, and that our language...
Nonsense. Cornelius, as an intellectual, you know damned well the gorillas are a bunch of militaristic nincompoops, and the orangutans are a bunch of vintage scientific geese. As to humans, I've examined thousands of them, and until now I've only discovered 2 who could talk in my life. God knows who taught them.
Where we come from, apes talk. Humans are dumb. Where do you come from, Cornelius? I'm not sure.
Dr. Milo was sure.
Dr. Milo was a genius well in advance of his time.
Even though he was not in the first 2 films,
Right.
He's all of a sudden important,
Half understood it. Half? Was half enough? It was enough for us to escape when war became inevitable. Enough for Dr. Milo to be murdered in your zoo. Enough for my wife and I to be here now. From where, Cornelius? I told you. I'm not sure. Maybe the female knows.
Of course the female knows. We came from your future.
That is interesting about the relationship between Zira and Cornelius and these, that she's always the smarter one.
Right.
And the more progressively
one,
minded,
right.
ape.
Mr. Chairman. Yes. Cornelius, you spoke of war. War between whom? The gorillas and whoever lives. That lived. Will live. Who won the war? Well, I don't know. The chimpanzees are pacifists. We stayed at home. But you left before the war had ended. In a spaceship, which Dr. Milo learned about. Correct. Cornelius, did you know a Colonel Taylor? No. Is he a soldier?
We are peaceful creatures. We are
If they've said everything else and they can't just be like, oh, yeah. But,
yeah.
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 Steven Spielberg.
Just briefly tell this story.
Have we not told that before?
I don't think so on here.
I think we did when we watched Jurassic Park.
Maybe
That's been a long time
actually.
ago.
That at the very end of Lincoln, when I saw that in 2012, as the movie ends, I saw it in Wilmington, the very end, director Steven Spielberg and an audience member just felt the need to just out loud to everybody say, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Like the majesty, the pageantry, Oh, that they are Louis and Stevie are the Cornelius and Zira of the humans. And they too will fall by the wayside.
Apes did not love humans. They hunted them for sport, much as you would animals.
We use their bodies, alive and dead, experimentally, for anatomical dissection and scientific research.
So we would never do that. Oh, wait, what?
Yeah, I don't think people would have been into that part,
Yeah. He nuked himself.
Yeah. Bill Bonds. I'd say this is bigger than the moon landing, but that's just me,
Well, as far as the implications of it, yeah.
Just because humans didn't do anything, so,
Yeah. The well-known ape.
Yeah.
King Kong.
A la V.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
infinite regression. Was that the state of Hollywood? What are you talking about? Like, the fifth dimension.
himself becomes part of the landscape he painted and is both the observer and the observed. Well, now, in that peculiar condition, what would he be observing if he were observing, let's say, time? He would perceive, Mr. Bonds, that time is like a freeway with an infinite number of lanes.
Wasn't the story about talking about Bonds, thinking about James Bond, that Ian
Yeah.
Fleming knew a guy named James Bond or something,
Yeah.
and that he thought that was the most boring, anonymous kind of sounding name,
Right.
and that actually now, because of James Bond, everybody
Right.
thinks
He
that
wanted
name's
to pick the
cool.
most boring name ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what somebody like that would have, a name like that. Like,
Yeah. In their cage, they got
Yeah.
books and clothing, furniture.
I was like, oh, we get to look around. Like,
Yeah. Well, that's what's funny is like the past for them, 2,000 years looks in a lot of ways is far more advanced than what the future actually is,
Right.
because it's all been wiped out by that point. Famous Brown Derby restaurant in Los Angeles.
Hello, L.A.
An ape is dead.
Yeah, I
Quoting
mean,
from the
Dr.
Adventures
Milo.
of Ford Fairlane trailer, by the way. Starring the incomparable Andrew Dice Clay,
I mean, yeah, he is incomparable.
well-known ape.
Okay.
All right.
They didn't try again or something.
No.
Ha ha
Ha ha ha ha. We are in prison. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. The 70s.
Yeah.
Like, America.
What a land it was, Seeing the sights.
Looked like it said Jack Lemmon, but I know it
Yeah.
didn't.
Now, Jack Lemmon should have played himself meeting the apes in this, Now, didn't some people say that in the original Pierre Boulet novel that future is apes in suits and driving cars and is
Yeah.
like more, them it's
Yeah.
just, straight role reversal as opposed to a
Right.
wholly separate society, I guess.
Yeah.
Which some elements of that will pop up at the very end of the Tim Burton remake, but
Yeah.
Zero forthcoming flower child ?
This shot, like, what is going on?
You can get a little straighter than that, and the camera movement is, I guess, right before the steady cam, so.
Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha.
Madam Zero, I represent Fur and Feather, a pet magazine. And I have a pet. Well, yes, I do, rather.
First she's gonna be offended, but then she's like, "Well, that's the reality they live in. It's a different time back then, you know." That must have been what they thought the whole time. It's a different time that we're now in.
What the? Like they're getting to use it, and they're not even doing it. Yeah. You imagine if this happened.
Yeah.
It would literally be like this, where that is literally all that is on TV.
Yeah.
Like, look at his feet.
Mm-hmm.
Like hands,
Yeah.
but like. He's like, oh my god.
So he's got this brand new invention called television. He's like, enough of that crap. Now that pajamas is what we need to get. You know, that robe. In the event you're not watching this along with us, please look up let's see if we can Google it, like Cornelius robe escape from the Planet of the Apes.
It may or may not come up, just depending on.
I'm gonna check and see if it does.
How stupid a lot of the internet is that they don't put the right things on there. You know. Yeah,
No,
there it is. Looks like a promotional photograph.
Yeah,
that one.
There's some other ones too.
Future Twitter pic, maybe. I mean,
so she just fits right into the women's movement, I guess.
Even though she's literally, well, she is a female, but she's not literally a woman. But you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, it's only been in recent years where I've really grappled with and come to terms with how downright violent boxing is as a sport. I mean, it's something I still actually am entertained by, see here and there, but it's literally people wailing on and hitting each other in the faces, head, and body, you know. And Cornelius even susses that out pretty quickly. Now it's interesting that they're the intellectuals, so they're in a lot of this stuff. But they should have had a gorilla come along with them too, and he's like down there by the pier, like shooting dice, like you know,
right,
getting in fights, like. That little slide he did on the floor.
Yeah.
With his shoes.
I shan't leave.
Wine, I guess.
Yeah.
You're talking about. So, you know, now we have Disney Plus, but back in the 70s they had Grape Juice Plus.
Right.
You know?
New invention.
Mm-hmm. Zira day drinking while pregnant.
Yeah.
No wonder Caesar ended up being, you know, hyper violent, revolutionary.
Wow. So hopefully it'll fail.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Well, back then that was probably not even. I guess I don't even know, but the literature was out about drinking as much while pregnant back then.
Yeah.
But. So he just happens to have a cigarette case that's also a tape recorder.
I mean, he works for the government. Huh?
She's gonna, I guess, open up and talk a little more because she's drinking. Getting loose.
Well, I don't have to immediately worry about it.
Mm-hmm. It's more bugging in the Oval Office, you know.
It's interesting that even the president is like, nah.
Yeah.
Herod became unpopular, like, yeah.
So, no, we're going to run them in the midterms of 74, you know. Because I am German. The secret German history. Commission of Apes.
Whoops.
No, you see, we need to spin off Commission of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Andy Hardy goes to the Planet of the Apes. Apenauts.
Yeah.
I mean, what else would you call them, though, you know?
Here's my interrogation.
Camp 11.
That's your voice, is it?
Can I tell? I don't even remember.
Why don't you remember?
Because Dr. Hasnight made me drunk.
Why did you tell something to Dr. Hasselhoff when drunk that you never told the commission when sober? Because you and your husband were frightened for the safety of yourselves and your unborn child?
I withheld nothing. Nobody asked me.
But if somebody had asked,
I should have said that chimpanzees had no part in the destruction of Earth. Only the gorillas and the orangutans.
what's the difference? You're all monkeys.
Please do not use the word monkey. It is offensive to us.
As an archaeologist, I had access to history scrolls which were kept secret from the masses, and I suspect that the weapon which destroyed Earth was man's own invention. I do know this. One of the reasons for man's original downfall was your peculiar habit of murdering one another. Man destroys man. Apes do not destroy apes. Cornelius, this is not an interracial hassle, but a search for facts. We cannot deny the possibility of man's decline.
In a weird way, the whole ape must not kill ape or whatever is actually in some ways feels like a way to pacify their populace into never going against what their class structure is, to never waver from that, oh, well, you're a chimpanzee, so you only exist at this point in society. Or you're a orangutan, you exist here, you know. So for all its pacifism, it actually is literally pacifying the public in its own way to never really, truly breaking out of that order.
This is here explaining things that are going to be important for the next movie, that like there was a plague that killed pets, like dogs and cats, so then the people took the apes.
One of the more absurd aspects, I think, of the next movie.
Yeah, the people took apes as like servants and slaves and pets.
Mm-hmm. Or if it was COVID-19, it's on the scene as a dirty little virus told us. By the great Iggy Pop. Look that up if you haven't heard it. Well-trained ape.
Could a sheepdog cook? All clean the house or do the marketing for the groceries with a list from its mistress? Get all wait on tables?
Or after 3 more centuries, turn the tables on their owners.
But they became alert to the concept of slavery. And as their numbers grew, to slavery's antidote, which of course is unity. Well, at first they began assembling in small groups. They learned the art of corporate and militant action. They learned to refuse. Boy, at first they just grunted their refusal. But then, on an historic day which is commemorated by my species and fully documented in the sacred scrolls, there came Aldo. He did not grunt. He articulated. He spoke a word which had been spoken to him whole time without number by humans. He said, so that's how it all started.
The word no.
Where we come from, apes talk. Humans are dumb. You recognize your husband's words to the commission?
Like, yeah. How stupid question is that?
When somebody goes through your old tweets, and confronts you about it.
Repeat first 3 seconds of clip 2.
As to humans, I dissect. I've examined.
What was the word you didn't finish?
I can't remember.
Play the loop.
Had the loop ready, you know.
Dr. Dixon, please.
Dr. Dixon? Dr. Hassline calling Dr. Dixon. Calling Dr. Dixon.
Dissect.
Dr. Dixon. Come in. Be good enough to administer this to the female. Mine is sodium pentothal, 1/2 gram IV. Dr. Hassline, I'm an animal sec. And a qualified vet, Dr. Dixon. With the commission's authority. Hand that to the president. Please.
Not please, do.
Yeah.
Zira, I've been asked.
If only you knew what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Dad, we only use those things for killing.
Killing? No, this is not for killing, Cornelius. This is for relaxing. It won't harm you.
Will it harm my baby?
No, it won't. So, Zira, if you would just come with me, please.
Oh, Louis, you can't use that on Zira.
Please take him to his quarters. Really?
Louis, no, you mustn't. Zira.
Please. Just lie down on the couch. And bare your arms, please.
And I do think what happens to Cornelius and Zira in these movies is probably objectively the saddest, most tragic arc you see of any of the characters in this, you know. Because they, you know, for all their suspicions of humanity, in a lot of ways have some semblance of trust or respect in humanity that ultimately goes unfulfilled,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. And that humanity proves them wrong, sadly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, we thought too much of them.
Yeah. And that the zealotry of the apes was in many ways confirmed. The apes of the original, you know, first two movies, the other ones.
It's customary to stay. Zira, you worked in a room like this.
Bigger, not so pretty.
And there you practiced
Comparative.
comparative what? Anatomy? Whose anatomies did you compare? Apes and humans? Zira, say yes if you mean yes. So you dissected other apes?
Yes, when they died a natural death.
And humans too, of course.
Yes. As they were made available.
Available?
Gorillas hunted through the sport with nets and with guns.
Get a little bit of a flashback. Yeah.
Survivors were put in cages.
The old rodeo days.
For target practice, we could take our scientific pick of the rest.
And in the interest of science, you dissected, removed, and statistically compared.
And bones, muscles, tendons, veins, arteries, the kidneys, livers, hearts, stomachs, reproductive organs, nails, tongues, eyes, noses, nervous systems, the various reflexes.
Reflexes of the dead.
The living. You can't make a dead man's knee jump.
Wait, really?
Just the corpse's reaction to a prefrontal lobotomy.
It's when they cut out his brain, those bloody baboons.
Yeah.
We even tried to stimulate their atrophied speech centers.
Did you try to stimulate Colonel Taylor's speech center?
Of course not. He could talk already.
When you left, was Colonel Taylor still alive?
We loved Taylor. We did all we could to help
There he is.
Mm-hmm.
She should have a nap now.
She'll get it.
A dirt nap.
Orderly. Sir, please take the female ape to its quarters. Sir. We have to get this to the commission immediately.
Gentlemen, I've just received an official notification from the President ratifying the final recommendations made by this commission in light of the tape recordings delivered to us by Dr. Haslan. Now, if you just be seated, we'll get right down to business. Now, let me review our conclusions. 1. By a majority vote, the commission finds no solid evidence for hostility by either ape towards the human race as at present constituted in this year of our Lord, 1973. Remind you that this was by a majority vote.
SOB.
Your Eminence. Your Eminent SOB.
Yeah.
The well-known SOB.
Actions against the human race of a sort which, if they were to be committed today, would be called atrocities. But would they be so called in 2,000 years' time when it is alleged that humans will have become dumb brutes with the restricted intelligence of animals? It has been pointed out that what apes will do to humans is no more than what humans are now doing to beasts. Nonetheless, the Commission is sympathetic to Dr. Hasline's conviction that the progeny of these apes could, in centuries to come, prove an increasing threat to the human race, and conceivably end by...
The funniest thing is that in the second movie, it's in 1991, so it's a lot quicker than what actually happened. But
yeah,
or what they say is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The female ape's unborn child should be prevented. That after its prenatal removal, both the male and the female should humanely be rendered incapable of bearing...
Wasn't Roe versus Wade in 1973?
Could be.
Yeah, which in its own way is abortion, which is interesting.
Yeah,
That's
right.
You know, that was a topic I know of the day, obviously.
And worse. Taylor thought we were savages at first.
Did they make you tell them about Taylor, too?
That was a real, did you sell crank to my pregnant ex-wife moment? Like,
Very
all
much
Lost
in the
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy tradition, yeah.
Which was in the first episode of the show.
Yeah, Ron Perlman easily could have. You can see him in ape makeup
Oh,
and being
yeah.
a ape.
Basically looks like that
Yeah.
as Hellboy in
Yeah.
a way, and just in general.
I'm fireproof. You're not, as he said.
You
Hellboy.
want the baby.
Yeah.
He looks like Tom Waits.
Yeah. That maybe like taller, bigger,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, but
But the
facially-
hair and the
Yeah.
yeah. Treated you like dirt.
chow time.
I'm not hungry.
Well, maybe somebody else is who can't talk yet, huh? Oh, come on, man. It's pure vitamin C. You better drink your soup and eat the oranges for the sake of that little monkey you got in there.
What is the fool out of my wife? But aren't we to call?
Oh, please.
Back with the
The
score from
funky
the first
time.
movie,
Yeah.
with a little bit of modern day funk. Gotta get the pocketbook, you know.
Well, that's the end of that guy.
Yeah. What a shame.
Yeah, I would say I feel bad, but I don't, so.
Well, of course, I'll come right away.
Good thing he didn't ask if they're from Monkey Planet, because
yeah,
I'd get him sooner.
Unbelievably. Zero wants her baby. So did I. But dead. Yeah.
Wow.
Parents dead, too. There you go.
I'm gonna ignore you.
Yeah.
Come. Car waiting. Like.
Front door open.
Gate 4. Just a minute, sir. I'll take a look. No, sir. The lieutenant hasn't checked in yet. Night, Charlie. Night, Ed. Yes, sir. I'll give him that message. Contact the motor pool. Yes, sir. Just as soon as I see him. Gate 4. Oh, yes, Captain. No, sir. The supply truck isn't due until 0600 hours. Well, I'm sorry, sir. Good night, Charlie. I said good night. We haven't even had contact until then.
I said
Well,
good night.
I was like, good night, Charlie. Like,
Okay, sir. I'll be off duty, but the brief comes on at 0430 hours, and I'll get him to pass a message.
I'll get somebody else to do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most human thing ever.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, instead, rather than, that idea of why do something today you could put off till tomorrow, why do something you could put off on somebody else?
Yeah.
You know?
I think my pains have begun.
British Virgin Doctor. Surgeon.
Great.
Things are going sideways. Apes on the run. Monkey madness.
Blood.
Mm-hmm.
Blood.
Violence.
The apes have killed their orderly. Where are they? On the run. Now they've killed. And for that they must be killed. It has to be done and done quickly. Before we start a stone rolling, they'll gather enough poison moss to kill us all.
Enough poison moss
To kill us all.
Yeah, like, why would they react so much to that? Like, well, everybody's gonna be imprisoned and tortured. Like,
I'm going back to camp. I'm going to find Lewis and I'm going to get help.
No, no.
Sarah, I just lost my temper with the boy. Now, maybe...
It's better now. I can walk.
Listen to me. They won't punish us for what we did, but at least the baby will be born.
Were they armed? Then when they're found, there's no need for a shooting match, is there? Well, not strictly speaking, no.
I am speaking strictly, Hassline. Science regards these apes as unique. The people regard them as practically human.
And, Mr. President, the people must be told that the killers of today could become the mass murderers of tomorrow.
Well,
taking a bit of a leap there, but
Yeah.
you know.
Better equipped emotionally than yourself. suspects on site for a murder in which their participation is still legally unproven. Now, I want them taken, yes, but taken alive. Is that clear?
Quite clear, Mr. President.
Yeah, well, who cares what he says?
Yeah.
The chase is on, you know?
Yeah. The unrelenting chase. Like.
You lost, miss? Oh, it's you, Dr. Brand. You better be careful, ma'am. There's been a murder.
Murder?
Yes, ma'am. The monkeys have killed their orderly and escaped.
What? I don't believe it. How did it happen?
I don't know, ma'am. All I know is they've killed their orderly, and I've been given orders to find them. Drive carefully, Dr. Brand. There will be a lot of vehicles in the area tonight.
Cornelius, what have you done?
Stevie, I didn't mean to kill him. He was teasing Zira, and I thought I'd just hit him with a tray. Please believe me.
I do, Cornelius, I do, but they won't. Where's Zira?
She's back there. She's hiding in the bushes. Stevie, she's in labor.
Oh, God. Get in.
Stevie, you won't take us back to the town.
Get down. I have a better idea.
Free ride.
Mm-hmm. Very 70s, on the chase, on the run score
Yeah.
here. Here's our boy.
Yeah.
Maltabon.
For the sake of two fugitive apes? Well, the answer is 1,000 times yes.
He's like, oh yeah, I love being, you know, apes on the run. Like,
Yeah.
The hell with no variety. What is a husband expected to do? Stand by and see his wife insulted? Good God. Aren't we rude enough to each other without having to be rude to animals? And anyway, he didn't mean to kill the boy. It was an accident. ¿Los tratan bien, muchachos? Sí, patrón. Salud.
I sure appreciate what you're doing, Armando.
Well, you helped deliver our last baby, and now you will deliver our next.
Louis, what took you so long?
After your phone call, I had to work out some excuse. They think I'm searching.
My mind has been saint.
And mine are what? St. Francis will have fixed it better.
Never.
Say hello to Heloise. And your goddaughter, Salome.
Hello, Salome.
The first chimp ever born in the circus.
No, Los Angeles had more.
Los Angeles is not a circus. Los Angeles is a zoo.
So, New York, you'd say.
Louis is here.
Louis, I was not responsible for the death of...
I know, but you will be responsible for her birth. How is she?
Well, the planes are coming every 5 minutes now. Every 4. Look at Heloise.
you can tell that's a human in a
Right.
ape outfit holding a chimpanzee there.
Mama. Mama. See? Mama. Mama. Zira. Zira, don't waste your breath.
Just this image, you know, just
Yeah.
Mama. Mama.
Ain't got no epidural, I guess.
yeah.
Like it is, it's like a real chimpanzee.
Yeah.
So his real name actually is Milo
Yeah.
Caesar. So
Named after Salminio.
Apes smoke, or the gorillas smoked.
Yeah.
Though, in the first movie. There they go again. Free ride. Pay ride.
She's got a
Sally
ticket to
ride.
ride. Be an ape flu going on.
Simian flu of the later films. The reboots.
Oh, that is what they call that, isn't it? Yeah.
I am so sorry. I had planned it all so well. In a month, in just 1 month, we move on to our winter quarters in Florida. I could have released you in the Everglades and oh, my dear little friends, you might have lived happily ever after. But now, what can I do? You have done enough to make us grateful to you forever. I did it because I like chimpanzees best of all yours. And you, the best of all chimpanzees. I did it because I hate those who try to alter destiny, which is the unalterable will.
I love how he's not at all questioned any of this. Is oh yeah, cool. Talking apes, that's fine by me.
It's a medal of St. Francis of Assisi. Who is he? He was a holy man who loved and cared for all animals. We hang around the baby's neck.
It's like, what? It's funny that a real ape is like...
Yeah.
A chimp, if you will.
Chimp, not simp.
Louis is on his way. Armando.
Yes?
I should like to say goodbye to Eloise first.
If only she could speak, she would say how very sorry she is.
But we understand each other.
Chimp would be a cute animal to have, but obviously they can be violent after a certain point. So
you've heard all the stories about all the apes that have ripped people's faces off and stuff. So
so that young already got a beard, you know.
Yeah. He wants a new truck. Well, it does what it should. It's sort of, the want a new drug by Huey Lewis in the news. I always thought that was I want a new truck.
Yeah.
For a long time, and I was always confused, like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
if only.
A derelict tanker.
Mm-hmm. If only.
Yeah.
Wow, it's dark stuff.
Yeah. Gonna get darker, so.
For the kiddies out there, you know. Ape with a gun.
And the last.
Unless he's got like some torrid deleted scenes we didn't see, you know. It's
Yeah.
like,
as Meatloaf once said, "You were the first, you'll be the last. Wherever you go, I'll be with you." It's not really good.
The great
Meatloaf impression, but it was what I wanted, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's how I interpreted it.
Tapes. Oh yeah, tapes. Was that on YouTube?
Yeah.
Him talking about some random Watergate documentary or something. Yeah. Look that up.
In fact, I've got the video here. I'll just play it on there.
Yeah, do it.
Let me find it.
Oh, yeah. Tapes of almost every conversation Nixon had in the Oval Office. Like any good prosecutor would have, Cox demanded his team be permitted to listen to these tapes to see if there was any evidence of wrongdoing. But Nixon refused. And what happened next was a knockdown, bare-knuckle battle between Nixon and the Justice Department. A battle that would shake the very foundation of our democracy.
I love, by the way, in that video, if you see it, he's like, looks like he's before like a sound editing machines, like he's going to drop a mixtape or something about like Watergate. It's just like, okay.
You know what I love most about that is that we just played it on the Escape.
Yeah.
of Escape from the Planet of the Apes commentary, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's of the era in terms of the 70s, you know. So. So he's the guy who cares just more than everybody else, like, you know.
So that situation a while ago where the cop showed up was a real 5150 somebody called a po-po kind of situation, you know.
I'm glad you bring that up too.
Yeah. Glad y'all are getting to hear all my songs, you know.
Yeah. This is his story. This is his song. Yeah. It's like, shut up, youngin'. Don't you know we're on the run? Leaving behind the ways of the old world. For them, the new world. The same as the old world, you know. So
I thought there's a modern lovers analogy to be made here about the comparisons of old world and new world, the songs, you know.
Now I'm just thinking, you know, Jonathan Richman as an ape in this era, you know. Now we got actual real problems to deal with
that we continue to cause.
Yeah.
Brains. Yeah, I'm sitting on a bunch of ice waiting to get jumped, if that's what you mean, brains.
GTA 4, by the way, for those
yeah, well,
keeping score at
if
home.
you didn't know, you're wrong and you should have known. He's like, what? Like, what do you mean, what? Like,
yeah,
they found the suitcase.
Yeah.
Like, dummy.
I don't understand why she couldn't have just had Cornelius carry it. You know.
Yeah, he wasn't really carrying very much. I don't think, was he?
No. She's carrying the baby, so just give it to him, and but whatever. You know, we can't relitigate the moment. You know.
Nope, clearly not. Real walking amongst the wreckage of the old world vibes here. Soon to be old world.
Mm-hmm.
Soon to be Outworld.
Soon to be New Jack City world.
Soon to be Denny world.
You said Disney world, but it almost sounded like Denny O'Neil world.
Or like Denny's.
Yeah.
He has a gun.
He's not afraid to use it.
In the words of Jeff Daniels, I've got a gun!
Was that him in Gettysburg? Like,
no. In My Favorite
like
Martian,
yelling at the Confederates.
Yeah, I've got a gun. Like, okay, like
I think everybody does.
I would hope, but just running around,
So, just kind of jogging, you know.
Yeah,
just getting some laps in before he dies, you know.
I couldn't agree with you more. This is all from My Favorite Martian, by the way, in case y'all are wondering out there. Thought I told you to shut up.
Is that what man wanted oil for? To kill fish? Who? Humans. We met hundreds since we've been here. And I trust three.
That sounds like humanity in general, though.
Yeah. Little whiskers.
Yeah. Look around. Look around.
Look around. Look around. Looks like it'd easily be from like Dirty Harry or something.
Yeah, but I mean, same year.
Yeah.
Same lifestyle.
Yeah.
When your lifestyle determines your death style.
Yeah. I forget that song was in the premiere of Smallville season 3 when he's like under the influence of red kryptonite. He's like robbing banks.
What?
To that song, yeah.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
I thought red kryptonite took his powers away.
No, well, it depends on what continuity you're talking about.
Okay.
Because the continuity of Smallville it turns him evil or bad or whatever.
And then the yellow kryptonite gives him his power back because that's
Yeah.
why the sun gives him the power to do all he does.
Green is always just consistently like weakens or
Death.
depowers, yeah.
Or eventual death,
Yeah. They should have went and got some. This movie could have got stupid actually if it did this, but like had some hippies. They get with some Roman hippies
God.
and like the hippies help them out. Like
that would have been too
on the nose.
That would have just dated the movie immediately. Like
That's
some
true.
people would already say this movie's dated, which it is, I guess. But Not really, though. I mean, it is what it is. Like, you know.
I guess it's the 50th anniversary of this movie this year, actually.
Yeah. Happy birthday. Where's the food?
Yeah. Just came out in May, I believe. So
we failed.
Yep, May. When the first of the remakes come out? Well,
it'd be the year.
Well, I guess I'm thinking about both of the Tim Burton one and the
2001 and then 2011, so 10 years apart.
July 27th. That's not too long from now.
We won't
It'll
get
be the
there
anniversary.
in time.
Yeah,
But,
I know,
yeah.
But
Oh no.
And then Rise was that 2011, 2012?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. 2011.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then Dawn was 2014, and then War was 2017. In Rise, I forgot that James Franco's name in that is Will Rodman.
Rodman?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk all about that later on. So.
Yeah. You.
In your care.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be laughing because what's about to happen is very unfunny, but just the like, oh, I'll just run away. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Not going to work out.
It's not going to be a workout kind of situation,
No.
you know. 10 years removed from that song. Any
Yeah.
thoughts?
Still not good. I don't know.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, funny though, but you know. That's the well-known ape. Flipping his lid. Yeah, that whole era of helicopters, I can't help but think of, Batman
Right.
66
Yeah.
movie. Almost look like these floating bubbles, the bubble
Yeah.
in front of them. People see it, piles of them.
The car.
Mm-hmm.
There's a jump cut there. You know.
Yeah.
Is that what you would call that?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't go to film school, so.
Yeah, basically what, yeah. Or you basically just excise a series of frames and...
Wow.
Really no qualms about straight up shooting what he thinks is a child. Oh, what a shame.
What a weird death that was.
Yeah. Rest in peace to Cornelius.
his body down there, just like dead.
What have they become? Humans, that is.
Helicopter, you can tell.
Yeah. Well then. In its own way, a downer ending, you know.
Yeah.
Seemingly.
Well, it still is, I think.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It is interesting that they got Milo to a circus, which is itself seen as this kind of lurid, unimportant entertainment that is itself masking a great unspoken intelligence about itself. So even in its own way, this kind of does have a shocking ending, I suppose. Not nearly as explicitly as the other films, but even so.
And it's goofy, but I find it sort of, just because it's just, But it's always very, kind of caught me at just in this, I don't know how to say it, just caught me in a sort of silence of just, very somber, although it's hopeful, but it's just very, affecting, I think.
Yeah.
But, yeah, of course, she made the decision to trade the apes for the ape baby for the other ape baby.
Yeah. Which means there's still that one that died, but,
But apes can survive.
Yep.
So, more sequels.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, anything else to say about this one?
No, I think it's really pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not great. There's goofy things about it. But I think it's probably the third best out of the group of these because Conquest is, in memory, I'll be interested. I've only seen Conquest once, so that'll be kind of a new experience. But, see that again.
Yeah, I would, in my memory, I would also put that second and this third.
Yeah.
But even so, again, as we said earlier, I think the decision to kind of take this to another era and a new little frontier of sorts was the right one to make. You know?
I think what works so much about Conquest, which I guess we're going to preview briefly now, is going to be next week, of course.
From 1972, only a year later.
Is that what I remember about that movie most is this sense of release in the ape kind of uprising and violence against the humans. There's a sort of strange, like I said, kind of release in that I feel like has really been building the whole franchise, and that we only really get, especially after the events of this movie and the events of the next one, that to finally see that as a sort of
because it should be said, a transition takes place between 2 and 3 of our main characters being humans to apes,
right?
And I think naturally our rooting interest also changes with that too,
right?
Because I think, at least for me, the first and second one, you're in Heston's corner and in Franciscus's corners because obviously they look like us. They're in a strange foreign place, and that changes with Zira and Cornelius in this adopting that role, and then next with Caesar in the next movies.
But I feel like also Beneath was prepping us for that too because of the mutant humans and their love of destruction ultimately,
and their otherworldliness, even in
and
their
that humanity. It was kind of prepping us for that. That's kind of really the ultimate war. I mean, it literally is because it's the end of humanity, but really everybody's evil basically, or you can understand everybody in the same sense too, so because it's all kind of a level playing field. But yeah, like you said, with these, it kind of switches the perspective to the apes and totally changes our rooting interest, which, I mean, that's what I think's so great about these movies in general, what we'll say in the end, is they're not always the best movies, but just the ingenuity, the continued ingenuity, just when you thought you couldn't do any more.
Right.
Because like I said, even with this one, you can do more, but it's like, oh, okay, it could just be seen as, okay, well, he survived and destiny delivered itself out. But even the ending of this, before that, where they die, is a sort of, oh, well, what will happen now, and then it quickly changes that. But I think Conquest. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, just in memory that again, that was my second favorite, and that it gets even more outright aggressive, and I think specifically articulating the apes' grievances with the humans and what makes them want to uprise and challenge the status quo, which at that time in 1972, I think for a lot of Americans, aspects of that would resemble the Black Power movement and the Black Panther Party. By the early 70s is an analog of sorts for some of that stuff. But maybe we'll walk through and talk about some of that next week. So, again, next week, 1972's Conquest of the Planet of the Apes will be hitting. This is Kyle.
This is Levi.
Take care. God bless.
Thank you very much. So nice. Goodbye.